A dashing man in silver armor called to Dez and kicked him out of his clan that very day. Kneeling politely on the ground, the young man remains silent out of pure shock. The words register in his brain after a while. Stumbling over himself, he asks his Adele why he was suddenly being tossed away. The question irks the leader, who angrily explains that they failed the recent exploration because he didn't scout for enemies well. He calls the enchanter useless, even using their expensive teleportation spell without permission. Dez couldn't believe what he was hearing and insisted that he did everything he was supposed to. They failed because they ignored his report and wasted time rummaging through treasure chests. His argument is interrupted as a hard object is thrown at his head. It opens up a big wound, but Adele doesn't care and instead tells him not to blame his mistakes on his teammates. He shouldn't pin it on them, as he's at fault for only being able to use basic enchantment magic. They picked him up from the streets while slacking around uselessly and was now being so ungrateful. Just then, Mary stepped in, telling the clan leader to stop it. It's fine to scold him like that in the dungeon, but doing so outside is a bad idea. Knowing she's right, he scowls in frustration and tosses the team member to the ground. The woman is also a mage, so she then asks about his method of scouting. Hearing him say that it's enhanced scent, her expression turns, and she says it's impossible to find enemies with just scent, so he must be lying. He tries to explain something, but she tells him to shut up and stop fooling them. Continuing to interrupt his words, she adds that his enhancements boost his target stats by 20. This makes her laugh, as any decent mage should be able to raise it by 30. Right now, all eyes in the city are on them. The rookies who are managing to clear B-rank dungeons. With their reputation and prestige, they don't need a deadweight like him on the team. They can only achieve that because of him, but he knows they won't even listen to him anymore. What's more, there's no longer a need to worry about his replacement. Caro, their shield bringer, joined the conversation, saying he's already found another enchanter. Dez doesn't understand how things are happening so fast, but a pink-haired girl was suddenly called into the room, looking much more competent than him. With a polite bow, she smiled brightly and greeted them all, saying it was an honor to join the Espada clan. While he was preoccupied, staring at his replacement, Adele suddenly grabbed him by the hair and gestured to the B ranker. Unlike him, a weak D ranker, she can actually use advanced enhancement magic. Since someone much stronger than him has arrived, they have no valid reason to keep him. With this, all of them, even the new girl, scoff as they officially kick the young man out. They'd gotten that far because of their skill, and they won't allow him to leech off their hard work. Hearing himself called trash one more time, he decides to accept and lead the party. As he walked away, they continued to jeer and throw insults at the poor adventurer. Turning back one last time, he uses his appraisal eye, a skill that allows one to check stats in a numerical form. With a quick look at their stats, he can say for sure that even advanced enhancement won't allow him to enter a C-rank dungeon alone. They were together for a year, and while the relationship wasn't that deep, they once promised to work hard together. Because of that, he genuinely considered them to be teammates. On the outskirts of the city, Dez sighed in sadness, unsure of where he was supposed to go from there, as he can't survive alone. That said, after what transpired, he can't just jump into the first group he sees. Just then, he hears a loud scream, and is surprised to see a man crashing to the ground beside him. With his mage partner, the pair grew pale in fear, questioning why a powerful monster was there. The wolf-like B-rank monster snarled at them, approaching steadily. As a D-ranker, there was no way he could defeat something like that. The girl tells him to calm down and promises that things will be okay, as she's a B-rank enhancer. She boosts him, but the adventurer gets swatted away with barely any effort. The panic finally started to set in, and the two trembled in fear of what's to come. Baring its razor-sharp fangs, the beast pounced at them with a gaping jaw. Dez couldn't get his former members to understand, but his magic doesn't just increase his target's stats by 20. Gripping his staff tight, he activates his enhancement magic and casts it on the man from before. Desperately raising his blade on instinct, he's surprised as it cuts through the enemy, which used to have impenetrable fur. Everyone was surprised, monster and adventurer alike, unable to believe what just happened. Getting its senses back, the wolf was filled with anger and roared loud. This time, Dez enhances the man's agility, allowing him to zoom past and pierce through the enemy. His enhancements do not just add 20 points, it multiplies it by 20, acting as a key factor in their victories. Standing victoriously, the adventurer looks back in shock. He regroups with his partner, who excitedly thinks that he might be stronger than they thought. In the end, Dez fails to explain his side once again. While he walked away, someone watched silently. With silver hair, silver armor, and shining white skin, a woman recognizes him. Spending some time picking out some guild requests, Dez takes a few copies outside. He eventually sighs in resignation, realizing that he has no choice but to join a new clan if he wants to explore dungeons. A dungeon is given to ancient ruins found all over the world. Within the ruins lie abundant resources, treasures, and knowledge left behind by its people. By collecting those, people can make a living and even allow the world to evolve with research. A party must be formed to explore one, but with stats as weak as his, there's no one to team up with. His low strength is due to his class, and the intelligence required for an enchanter is 0. It's never increased, so he can only use basic and weak enhancement magic. While it might be the side effect of using multiplicative magic, it's so low that it's making him sad. Just then, a light but quiet voice asks if he's looking for a clan. Turning around, he says he is, and immediately shares how he was kicked out. The girl suddenly screamed in surprise, saying some parties have no eye for talent. Finally seeing her face, his eyes widened. She was Cynthia, a woman he was quite familiar with. Glad he still remembers her, she gives him a tender smile and says it's been a while. The sight of her makes him excited and nostalgic, as it's been 3 years since she left their village. Catching up with each other, he sees a guild tag on her, showing the letter S. He points it out, confirming what he sees, as he doubts it at first. She doesn't show it around much, but he insists that she should be proud, as there are only a few in the world, sitting atop the rankings of adventurers. As her childhood friend, he's extremely proud of her and what she has achieved. His words make her blush, delighted that he thinks that way. He also blushes from her reaction, unable to ignore that the older girl was just as beautiful as always. She was strong since childhood and was someone he admired. The reason he became an adventurer is because he wanted to stand beside her one day. He remembers their promise back in their hometown, which was to conquer an S-rank dungeon together. Thinking that she probably forgot already, he feels creepy remembering. For a while, he shares his recent happenings, including the Espada. Even she has heard of them, as the rookies have already been exploring B-rank dungeons. Now, she knows they only achieved all that because he was a member of the group. He's confused at first, but she means exactly what she said. Even in the village, his enchantments were the best, and Espada likely performed well because of him. While he's happy that she actually noticed his power, she says his freedom makes things easier. With a determined expression, she asks again, and invites him into her clan. Eager to get him on board, she says the admission test is scheduled for tomorrow, and it is no question to her that he'll manage to pass. The young man thinks about it for a while. It's a generous offer, but he doubts that a weakling like himself could pass. Nonetheless, it's a great opportunity, more so as he can be with Cynthia if he's successful. To her surprise and delight, he says he'll give it a shot, despite being unsure of himself. She wastes no time, and invites him to come quickly and apply right away. His childhood friend drags him away, and while he didn't expect things to proceed so fast, just being with her after such a long time made him happy. The happy expression on his face soon turns grim, seeing where he's taken. He calls to her, who then apologizes as she forgot to mention her clan's name, Chevalier Garden, which is relatively well known. Well known is an understatement, as it's the largest and strongest in the continent. It has the highest number of adventurers, with its leading force closest to conquering an S-rank dungeon. Not having the audacity to join such a powerful clan, he changes his mind and turns tail, but she suddenly reaches out to hold his hand. With her face inches away from his, she asks to fulfill the promise they made as children. Blushing from the unexpected situation, it takes him a moment to realize what she means. He did not think that someone who's so far above him would remember an old pledge. He was almost swayed, but fortunately snapped back to reality and declined. Not caring, she dragged him in. On the day of the exam, Des arrives at the clan building and is given a piece of paper with the number 55 on it. Accepting it with blank eyes, he looked around the venue, which was basically a castle. It's as expected of the largest clan, and even the number of applicants was on a different scale. The exam will be held in groups of 4, and the requirement for passing is to defeat 10 goblins. It's basic, so he doesn't worry about it for now, and instead wonders where his childhood friend was. Just then, a loud voice welcomed the applicants, thanking them for waiting. Everyone turns and looks up at the garden member standing above them. Before beginning, she says they'll receive a message from Cynthia, captain of the 1st Brigade. The applicants start to make noise, hyped by the unexpected announcement. On the other hand, Des was completely frozen. He had not realized that his friend was the leader of the 1st Brigade. The prestigious clan has 5 brigades, and the first authority is just after the founder. It's composed of 5 members, handpicked from around the world to create the strongest party. Just then, its commander, Cynthia, proudly walked forward to show herself to everyone. Witnessing her grace and commanding aura, the people there were mesmerized. Starting her greeting, she asks them all to fully demonstrate their capabilities without any regrets. After all, the established members were all looking forward to fighting alongside them. While the applicants roared in unison, Des was still struggling to comprehend the situation. The others were fawning over the commander, but considering her position so high up, he suddenly felt lonely, like she had gone to a place he couldn't reach. Just then, someone tugged on his cloak and quietly called his name. Turning around to see who it was, he finds Cynthia, trying but failing to look inconspicuous as she thanks him for coming. Her efforts are completely wasted, since he jumps back and screams her name in surprise. With this, attention could not be avoided, and everyone looked their way. They all gasped upon seeing the commander, in awe of her beauty. Then, moving their gazes to Des, the people immediately questioned their relationship. Without an ounce of hesitation, the woman put her face close to his, wishing him good luck and saying she's supporting him from behind. After this, she leaves with a smile. It's unbelievable, but it seems she came all that way just to encourage him. Fortunately, her attempt works, and he gets all fired up. He vows to pass the exam and join her clan. Just then, someone approached him from behind. A woman screamed loudly, seemingly needing to talk to him. With a pale face, he nervously turns to her and is asked if he also got the number 55. She shows a similar sheet, and they realize that they must belong to the same party for the exam. The bright and fiery girl's name was Rena, a swordsman and frontline attacker. Another person joins the conversation and introduces herself as Dorothy, a mage. Her quiet and soft voice catches him off guard. A heavy but small step came next. Gura, a shield bearer, holds the sheet of paper and joins their team. Not expecting a dwarf, he greets and exchanges introductions. The group is complete, and they seem to be a lively bunch. They later arrive at the Dread Skull Dungeon, which will be their exam site. The proctors tell them to defeat 10 goblins inside, or withdraw and end the application. Even though it's a pretty low-ranked dungeon, they should still proceed with caution. Rena obviously doesn't care about such things and dashed inside with a bright grin. Their warnings and cries fell on deaf ears as she was already deep inside. While following, Des hears the examiners, saying it's a shame as they, in particular, have no chance. The team assignments are done randomly, but number 55 is full of rookies and is regarded as the worst in history. The assessment makes him shiver and grow pale. He looks at his members and tries to understand why even passing was impossible. Now, not knowing what to expect, he wonders if he's just unfortunate when it comes to parties. Dread Skull Dungeon used to be a B rank, where many rare magical artifacts were found. Thoroughly explored, its core was eventually destroyed. With no source of power, the strength of monsters dropped, along with its overall rank. Des has spent more time working on high-ranking dungeons, but he always got the least rewards. Realizing this, he wonders when his members began treating him so poorly. Come to think of it, he doesn't have any good memories of being with them. Brushing it off for now, he wonders what the proctors meant about their party being the worst in history. They were currently playing around, so he wonders if they're hiding their threatening aura. Just then, Rena jumps at him and accidentally knees the young man in the face. Putting her entire weight on his body, she joyfully asks what was wrong and if he's hungry. Despite his refusal, she then gives him her special snack as a treat. The girl proudly hands it over, promising that it'll be really delicious. Reluctant but knowing she won't stop, Des takes a small bite of the cracker. His eyes glazed over, struck by how scrumptious it was. During meal times with Espada, he was busy getting ordered around like a slave, told to get food ready. He didn't even have time to eat properly back then, but now Dorothy and Gar even came to him unprompted, offering a drink and some medicine. He hadn't experienced such kindness before and could only thank them for it. Feeling like they aren't bad people, he then asks everyone why they decided to take the entrance exam to the clan. Rena goes first and shares that she's the third daughter of a rural noble family. She's loved swords ever since she was a child, but her parents kept forcing her to get married instead. As such, she set out to become the greatest adventurer in the world. With Guard next, he confirms that a shield bearer's role is to protect everyone and charismatically asks if he needs a reason to do so. Surprised that everyone is actually really nice, they move on to Dorothy. Her adoptive parents are in the Garden clan, and she wants to pass to repay their kindness. Hearing him say that it's a great reason, she shrinks in embarrassment and apologizes profusely. He can't believe it, and has no idea why they were being regarded so terribly, despite being such kind people. All things considered, his reason for joining might be the most impure of all. With this, they raise their arms, promising to do their best together. While he's all fired up, Gara notices some dirt on his shoulder and walks over to dust it off. The dwarf lightly hits his helmet on a rock and suddenly falls flat on the floor, completely motionless. He calls to the shield bearer, laughing and telling him not to exaggerate such jokes. They tell him to wake up, but he just lays there, unresponsive to their words. Reality sets in, and they find that he might not actually be joking. Rena confirms that he isn't breathing, so they hurriedly look for a healing potion to use. Soon enough, the dwarf was up and chuckling again. Since they don't have too many photos to spare, they suggest he at least collapse in battle, but he says he's already trying really hard to be careful. Getting a bad feeling about it, Des uses his appraisal eye on his teammates. For starters, Rena's agility is high, but her strength is so low that taking a single goblin might be hard. Gara, the supposed tank, can die from an ordinary cat's simple attack. His worried expression draws the attention of Dorothy, so he turns to scan her next. The mage is a key player for long-ranged attacks, and her intelligence is fortunately high enough. He praises her, saying it's amazing to be able to use level-based magic. His hopes die down again, as she admits that her mana is so low that she can only use magic once a day. Taking all that together, he confirms that they are, in fact, the worst party in history. They have an attacker who can't defeat a single enemy, a shield bearer who falls with a single hit, a mage who can only use magic once a day, and an enchanter who can only use basic magic. Since they can die from an attack at once, he decides to cast enchantment magic on everyone. He isn't given the time to do so, as they encounter a large group of goblins. Desperate to protect everyone first, he tells them not to move while he casts enhancement. Rena is far too confident for her level, and charged in to win without letting him finish his spell. She targets a goblin and hits it right on the head, but due to her ridiculously low strength, she's the one who gets hurt. Believing it's no fault of her own, she says the one shit hit must be the boss of the dungeon. While worrying about the team, another enemy goes after Des. He turns upon hearing Gara's warning, but instead of blocking the attack, the dwarf trips over himself and falls flat. Frustrated that he's dying again, the enchanter questions why he even became a tank. Revived by a healing potion, the man says his cool answer again, despite failing to be of use. As he's told that they only have one potion left, he recklessly bumps into another column. With no potions and healers to help, they can't take any more damage. Des is too distracted by the hopeless situation that Rena has to sacrifice her body to save him from the enemies. She falls to the ground with a dazed expression. It's unthinkable that an attacker would block someone else at the expense of their own body. She knows this, but she can't just sit and watch as her teammates get taken down. Surprised and unable to understand, he says she might not even be able to hold a sword if she acts so recklessly. It's true that she wants to be the world's greatest swordsman and adventurer, but to the young noble, her comrades are more important. While he's stunned, frozen by her sincere words, Dorothy alerts them that there are 7 goblins coming. Gara tells everyone to fall back and steps between them with his large shield. He's dissuaded from doing so, since they no longer have any potions to save him with this time. Seriously calling to the enchanter, the dwarf says he's well aware of how weak he is, but won't mind falling if it's for his comrades. After all, even a corpse can serve as a shield. Dorothy then calls Des and says she can only fire 1 spell per day. There aren't enough goblins there to defeat and pass the exam, but if it's to save them, she'll gladly do so once he gives out the order. He refuses, reminding her that she needs to pass the exam for her adoptive parents. She knows it's true, but if she passes by abandoning her companions, then it would all be meaningless. The young man doesn't understand. They all met just a little while ago, and they're only together for the duration of the exam. There's no reason for them to go so far for each other. With bright smiles, they say the amount of time they're together shouldn't affect the depth of their bond. He can't help but team up. Just then, the emotional moment is interrupted as the goblins leap into attack. Gara stood his ground, ready to perish for the others. The blades hit him, and while they all expected death, he stood there completely unharmed. Not understanding what happened, even the dwarf is surprised, more so as the goblins surrounding him were suddenly sent flying back. This is the first time this has happened, so he wonders if he's unlocked some power. He realizes soon enough that that isn't the case, and it was all thanks to Des, who was working hard to enhance him. While focusing, he understands something important. He can always retake the test if he fails, but he doesn't want to pass with a different group. Despite being together for a year, this was something he never experienced with Espada. With newfound determination, he asks everyone to trust and follow him. After all, this is what it means to form a party and pass the exams. Calling to Dorothy, Des instructs her to prepare her magic. She hesitates, knowing she won't be able to pass the exam if she uses it now, but remembers his request for their trust. Understanding, the mage gathers her mana into her staff. Meanwhile, Rena and Gara are told to buy her time to prepare the attack. The girl will handle the enemies from the front, despite there being so many of them coming at once. Meeting his eyes, she lets her doubts go and smiles with faith. She tells them to leave it to her and charges into the group. Coming face to face with the first enemy, the attacker gets ready to take it down. Like earlier, she aims at its head and is fast enough to get the first hit. To her surprise, her swings do a lot of damage this time, and she even manages to slay a couple of enemies. She's amazed by herself, as it's the first time she's defeated so many enemies. Turning to the enchanter, she sees him working hard and realizes that he's enhancing her strength. The goblins growled and snarled in frustration, so they called to Gara and entrusted him with the backline defense. With empowered physical ability and vitality, he should have no problem protecting their mage this time. Doing as told, he swiftly makes his way to their rear and raises his shield. As he pushed the enemies back, Dorothy was free to focus on her incantation. After a while, she finishes chanting and has magic power surrounding her body. Upon alerting Des, she's instructed to aim at the passage to their right and launch with her full force as soon as he enhances her magic. She's confused at first, not knowing what he means by empowering her magic. Instead of explaining more, he gets right to work and increases all her mage-related stats. To her absolute shock, the water pooling by her staff grew into a huge sphere, and she could barely control all of it. She begs him to stop, unable to take it all anymore. Her body reacts, feeling so much energy surge throughout her limbs for the first time. To help her out, he embraces her from behind and holds her arms to aim. The poor girl nearly passes out from embarrassment, but she closes her eyes and puts all her trust in her comrade. With this, they release the spell, and a massive torrent of water shoots out of the staff. There are 7 goblins there, but they need to defeat 10 to pass the exam. Fortunately, he was able to sense more than 10 goblins in the adjacent area. With an increased range and stronger explosive power, the water cannon sped through the caverns even from far away. Reaching its destination, the blast explodes and kills all the monsters inside. With the amazing result, they all earn a ticket into the clan. Things then quickly go overboard as they see light shining from the other end of the dungeon. He boosted her power too much, and now the entire area was collapsing. They clearly see the sunshine and bright outdoors, barely saving themselves from the destruction of the cave. Des reflects on his actions, obviously getting carried away from having friends for the first time. Despite defeating the goblins, they worry about getting disqualified after wrecking the venue. As the party started to panic, a familiar man called to them. It was the examiners, beaten and injured from the cave-in, saying they've all passed and did so with the fastest time. Handing out the pass verification tickets, one man notes Des in particular, amazed by his enchantment magic despite his rank. In any case, Party 55 passed the entrance examination. At the clan headquarters, the members of Party 55 are congratulated and given their membership cards. Now members of the Garden Clan, they're asked to do their best for the organization. They stared at their ID, finding it difficult to believe. Rena breaks the silence and jumps in joy. She hugs Des, saying it wouldn't have happened without him. Unfortunately, their celebration doesn't last long, as they hear murmurs from nearby. People were in groups, looking at them as they gossiped. It was obvious that something was up, they just didn't know what was wrong. Just then, they hear the people say that it's the group who passed the exam the fastest. Their voices now loud, they note how they were the worst group in history, but had an amazing enchanter. While some stories about him were realistic and slightly too personal, others were downright ridiculous. That said, he can't say that he dislikes the attention. Rina snickers and says they should be proud of their party member, who's become the talk of the town. The others egg him on, saying he shouldn't be too modest, and that they really passed because of him. He thanks them all, but insists that things worked out, only because they worked hard together. As humble as ever, he attributes the win to the entire party. Blushing from his sincere and gracious words, Rina suddenly asks for his hand in marriage. That said, a quiet moment passes as they face the reality that it's time to part ways. Their faces are all solemn, having gotten quite attached to each other in the short time they spent together. The group was only temporary for the exam, and they'll likely join other parties moving forward. Feeling sentimental, Dorothy says they'll be the best teammates she'll ever have, regardless of where she goes. Rina breaks the moment and reveals that they're all still on the same team according to their ID. Each member takes a look and confirms that she's exactly right. Another awkward moment passes, and the poor mage tries to hide herself in embarrassment. They poke fun at each other, marking the beginning of their time in the same clan party. With that said, it was the perfect time to celebrate and let loose. They agree that it's the best thing to do for special occasions such as this. While the others excitedly walk out, Des can't help but long for Cynthia, eager to report his success. He doesn't even know where she is, and they're no longer in a situation where they can meet easily. It's a little lonely now. Before the sun sets, they reach a nearby tavern, which was already filled with customers. Raising a glass, 5 people shared a toast to celebrate their victory. While trying to enjoy their time together, they can't help but notice a familiar robed figure on the same table. Confused by the stranger's appearance, they politely ask who they are and say there are other open seats. Des' face freezes as he starts to recognize the person. Slowly and cautiously, he calls to Cynthia. It takes a moment for the others to realize what he said, but they soon follow and exclaim in surprise. The top adventurer tries to deny it, but they're already too sure. What's more, they scold the young man for addressing her so casually and question their relationship. Unable to deny it anymore, she apologizes for interrupting so suddenly, despite knowing better. She then reveals that she simply wanted to celebrate with her childhood friend. In other words, she came all the way there for him. It's shocking to hear their true relationship, but the brigade commander asks that they don't misunderstand. She isn't showing any favoritism, and he passed because of his own ability. There's no need for her to say that, as they already know. Rina clings to Des, claiming to be the ones who know him the best. Cynthia is stunned by how close they look, since even she has never clung to him like that. As Dorothy scolds the swordswoman for addressing the commander so casually, they're told to drop the formalities for now, since she's the one who intruded on their celebration. Moving on, the childhood friend suggests that it might be too much to claim to know the most about the young man. However, Rina doesn't budge an inch and hugs him tighter, insisting that they face death together. An odd tension and competition arises, with neither lady willing to let go of him. Just then, Gar notices a plate of chicken arriving at their table. He informs everyone that the food has arrived, too delighted to read the room. With a shaky atmosphere, they officially begin the victory celebration. A couple of spoonfuls make their way to Des as 2 different voices urge him to take a bite. He has no idea how it came to this, but he seems to be trapped between different options. Trying to say something, he gets interrupted by the women who fight to be picked. Dorothy tries to rescue him, saying he's having a hard time, but completely misses the point and suggests that he have some milk instead. Gara is just as dense, and suggests eating some of the delicious pasta. Des declines all their advances, reasoning that he's fully capable of eating on his own. They refuse his refusal, and force him to make a choice between the food and them. This time, their relationships are put into the mix, with each arguing that they're more important. They stray further from the main point each second. Rina is told to hold on to the conversation, but even Cynthia was getting swept up and misunderstanding his words. Seeing how bold he can be, she silently wishes that he directed it towards her instead. Annoyed as they weren't getting anywhere with the meal, they agreed to decide here and now who's going to be chosen by the young man. Surprisingly, they suddenly turn serious and review each dish with sincerity and consideration. The empty plates pile high, and the generous spread from earlier soon diminishes. Wanting to feast the best food, they start to order everything on the menu. However, a mistaken bump causes the stacked plates to topple over. Des moves instantly, rushing in to block the ceramics. The 2 women wait, wondering which of them he's going to protect and choose. In the end, both women end up soiled with leftovers and filled with disappointment as they see his body completely defending Gara's. Realizing his mistake, he tries to explain that the dwarf would have died if he didn't protect him. The small man makes it worse, addressing him cutely, while the ladies recognize their true enemy. With this, they casually latch on to each other and decide to drink their troubles away. They endlessly order drinks, with the guests congratulating them for passing the exam. In an unexpected turn, they manage to get their victory celebration going. Rina later passes out with a smile on her face, ending the night on Gar's back. While completely drunk and chaotic, Des thanks Cynthia for coming all that way for them. It's a pretty big moment, since it's the first time they're holding such a gathering with comrades. Seeing him appreciate it that much, she blushes, reassured that she made the right decision. He adds on, admitting that he's elated to be in the same clan as she is, despite their brigades having quite the gap between them. She says he'll get there soon enough, having complete faith in his abilities. While it sounds like an exaggerated compliment to Dez, the commander is serious with her assessment and fully believes that he'll become someone who supports the clan's core. With all said and done, she finds it fortunate that he's become party members with such people. Based on the little time they spent together, she is sure that they're a pleasant bunch. There are some issues though, especially with Rena, who treated her like a peer instead of a senior. It was fun celebrating with everyone, but the lady quietly admits that she would have liked it better if they could spend time with just the two of them. He asks what she said, not hearing it too well, but Cynthia was already walking away. Speaking to him affectionately, she puts on a bashful expression and says she'll be counting on him from tomorrow onward. Although her words make him blush, he shares her sentiments. At a simple store in the middle of the city, Dorothy was in awe of the wide collection of potions for sale. Since their next mission will be their first for the clan, they agreed to be well prepared. That said, Dez asks if it's really okay to split the total cost of items between the members. She's slightly confused and explains that the garden can handle the payment if she submits a receipt. As expected, a largest clan is much more generous than Espada, which had him pay for everything before. It also means that they're expecting a lot from their members. The thought makes him remember his old group, and it somewhat feels nostalgic. Completing the transaction, the two head out with their big bag of purchases, and the enchanter wonders what his old members were doing at that time. Meanwhile, in Bristol's northern district was the deep-sea rank dungeon, Green Bites. A familiar group of adventurers was exhausted, panting hard from their fight. Before them was a group of goblins, not anything out of the norm. Adele curses in frustration, not understanding what was going on with them, and why they couldn't even beat a weak group of goblins. One of the small monsters leapt in to attack. He raised his blade to defend, but was obviously struggling to keep it up. Unable to take it anymore, he sent flying back and tumbling on the ground. Worried, the others called out to their leader, but the enemies were closing in fast, and there was nothing they could do. Mary angrily tells Caro to do his job and protect them, but he was busy doing it on another side. Surrounded with no escape, they start to fight over who's to blame in all this. Tensions rise, and so do their voices. Adele slowly propped himself up, still shaking from the damage, and fumed as he had no other choice. They use the expensive teleportation book to escape and appear safely outside the dungeon. The leader questions what was happening, as they were exploring B-rank dungeons just the other day. Unwilling to accept it, they start to make excuses and give ridiculous reasons for their loss. On the other hand, their new member couldn't help but be worried. Espada was completely different from their reputation, and she wonders if the rumors are true. Adele then proceeds to blame her, saying her enchantment magic wasn't working properly. The insults turn her feelings of worry into anger, so she retaliates and says that they're the ones who can't do anything right. Their shield bearer can't stop enemies at all. The mage is only able to use basic spells a few times before running out of mana, and the leader was blown away by a mere goblin so easily. It's laughable that the famed Espada turned out to be such incompetent weaklings. Infuriated, Adele grabs her by the collar, firing the enchanter and threatening to kill her. While struggling and trying to push him away, her staff comes in between his legs, causing his knees to buckle and fall over. The force of him hitting the ground is strong enough to shake a nearby boulder. A few small stones pathetically fall over his head, serving only to anger him even more. While his two team members worried about this, the girl looked down at him with a demeaning expression. She laughs loudly and calls him lame, unable to even take a defensive stance. Lastly, his eyes turn red with rage as she calls him weak. They don't have to fire her, as someone of her status would never want to be involved with such a ridiculous bunch of losers. While she turned away, Adele grit his teeth in fury. Lashing out, he cursed all the enchanters they've been with and blamed them for being useless and annoying. It was a brand new day, and Party 55 was going to have their very first mission with the clan. Dez was hyped up, determined to be successful this time as well. If they keep working hard and achieve results, he might be able to join Cynthia's brigade. Prepared to do his best, he meets up with the rest of his members. Their brigade also handles odd jobs, so today we'll likely have them do a normal dungeon search. Since it's their first task, things should be fairly easy to clear and pass through. Dez laughed in delight, feeling lucky that he ended up with such great people as teammates. Unlike before, he was actually starting to have fun. However, there was a cold atmosphere as soon as they entered the clan's main hall. Chilling gazes pierced through them, and everyone scowled as they saw the party members arrive. There was obviously something off, since everyone around them was blatantly whispering things. Rena, believing it's like before, suggests that they must still be in awe of the fastest passing group. It doesn't seem that way this time, and the atmosphere was completely different. Finally, the words become clear. They're being accused of joining the clan through connections. The rumor makes them freeze, and the others glare at them, feeling like they're being looked down on and insulted. For some reason, it's become common knowledge that Dez was Cynthia's childhood friend, and Dorothy also has a high-ranking guardian within the clan. Recalling their supposed achievements, everyone calls them a group of frauds and cheaters. Things escalate, and they scream at them to leave immediately. Despite the attempts to clear things up, things fall on deaf ears. Just then, a resounding voice from above tells them all to stop. All turning to him, a man starts to speak with slurred words and incoherent sentences. He introduces himself as Brant, the 5th Brigade's captain. Taking a closer look, Dez cannot believe that he's their captain. After all, he's completely drunk, despite delivering an important address. The vice captain blatantly slaps him in the face and tells her superior to get it together. Moving on, the seemingly irresponsible captain starts to explain the mission. They'll be searching the Messful Ice Cave, which is found in the freezing tundra. While searching, the main goal is to collect the rare gem of wisdom, found in the deepest part. The recruits are surprised, knowing these are B-rank items and dungeons. It's understandable that many would hesitate to enter such a difficult area so suddenly. Dez is confused by the order. Adventurers in the 5th Brigade are D-rankers, so entering a dungeon 2 ranks above them is too risky. So why would they, who would likely die from a single monster encounter, have their first mission there? Despite having the multiplicative enhancement spell, even he isn't sure if they can handle it. Attributing it to the Garden's policy, he says they'll understand what it means to be in their clan. His vague words make them think they are the biggest organization in Briston, and the number of members is massive. Considering this, he's likely calling them all disposable. People start to get mad, feeling like they're being treated as pawns to be thrown away. Still slurring his words, the captain tells them not to make such a fuss. After all, it's true that they're all replacements. The blatant admission brings a strong reaction, and most of the newbies get mad. Indeed, a large organization can use their headcount as an advantage that way, but this is the organization Cynthia belongs to, and Dez believes that they're much better than that. Left unresolved, the people continue to shout and protest in anger, and he can only hope that things don't get worse that day. Brant completely ignores their worries and explains that they have 6 parties from the brigade, including the 55th. Someone will be assigned as a leader, and others will be required to obediently follow like a dog. With the captain's words becoming even more brash with each sentence, the air gets heavier, along with the weight of leading the team. Just then, it's declared that Party 55 will be the leaders, and the members' names are all called one by one. The others turn towards them with a seething glare, already disliking the group because of the rumors. Brant doesn't help at all, and just leaves with his bottle in his mouth. Dez shook, feeling everyone's angry glares burn right through his body. The Messful Ice Cave is a high-difficulty B-rank dungeon, found in the freezing tundra. As the name suggests, the temperature plummets as soon as they enter. It is said that such dungeons are forever expanding. Stepping in, they're mesmerized by the clear shell of ice, covering the walls and everything inside. They're told to watch out for any enemies, but Rena was already preoccupied with something else. Spinning around, she's noticed that she isn't cold at all, despite being in a frozen structure. The simple explanation is the cold resistance enchantment Dez cast on them. Wearing winter clothes would obstruct their movement, so this is the most efficient way. While he has to recast it every now and then, it should be fine since they're just exploring the dungeon. Rena clings to him in delight, wanting to keep the mage at her home as portable heating appliances. He reminds her not to get too comfortable, as they're still in a high-difficulty dungeon. As he continued to warn them, a spiked boot suddenly kicked him hard at the back. He falls flat on the floor with a heavy thud. Turning to the assailant, Rena asks what they think they're doing, but they throw the question back to her. They're supposed to be exploring the dungeon, but the two are too busy flirting to progress. Again accusing them of joining through connections, the other parties chant at them to get lost. She argues against them in frustration, but the fact that he was chosen as the leader for the mission only reaffirms their beliefs. Refusing to entrust their lives to frauds, they once again tell them to leave right away. While Dez tries to calm them down, Rena only makes the situation even worse, as she tells them to prove that they're more capable than the leader. Instead of listening to those rumors, they should take her on a one-on-one. Infuriated, they take her challenge on, cursing the arrogant young woman. As they move into fight, the enchanter tries to remind everyone that they're allies who should focus on cooperating. Refusing to be considered his teammates, the adventurers attacked. Rena, either bravely or foolishly, put herself between them. Dez tries to say something about their enchantments, but they take this as an attempt to join the fight and make a tear-jerking story. They punch him in the face, holding on to the idea of him cheating to pass the examination. Used to getting hit, he insists that they did no such thing. A kick is planted into his gut, as the others argue that bad people always deny their crimes. They kick the man on the floor, stomping on him and airing their frustrations out while he screams. Rena is targeted as well, but she's a bit too fast for them to follow. Dodging skillfully, she counters with a kick, putting all her power into it. The man blocks with his arms, but falls still in confusion and surprise. While the strike had no effect on him at all, the block actually deals damage on the attacker. Again deluding herself, she says he must be a defense specialist, but he doesn't even have those stats. With this, everyone realizes that Party 55 is really weak, again affirming the fraudulent allegations. Moving towards them, they put their hands on the struggling members, but Dorothy notices something wrong. A tile on the floor sank as an adventurer stepped on it. While things got even rowdier, one man desperately reached out, wanting to cast enchantment as fast as possible. The sight of him annoys the others, so they move to throw him out the dungeon. Just then, Dorothy urgently called to everyone. They were in no position to be fighting, and they had to stop immediately. However, the angry adventurers are only willing to stop if the accused party quits the clan. This isn't what she's talking about, and they had a bigger problem to worry about. Trembling in worry, she notes the floor and says they've likely triggered a trap amid all the ruckus. It sounds like an excuse, so a lot of them doubt her at first, but are immediately convinced as a huge perimeter of the floor suddenly collapsed, revealing a pit of sharp icicles. Everyone turned pale and screamed, fearing for their lives. Meanwhile, those left above could do nothing but stare as they plummeted. As the mage mentioned earlier, it was a huge trap that would kill all those affected. Screen from above erupted, hopeless and helpless watching despite knowing what was to come. The people reached the ground, and the victims of the trap lay at the bottom of the pit. It was total annihilation. They couldn't believe it. Just then, they see the pit glow a soft green light. Staring in confusion and wonder, they see those who fell stand up, completely unharmed despite falling into the spikes. There was not a single injury, and it's actually the icicles that broke. Everyone cheered in amazement and relief, while others wondered what had happened. One man gets an idea and looks to the back to see Dez, still on the ground but casting a spell with his staff. While he was seriously injured and barely awake, magic gathered around his equipment. The glow on the staff was the same light that was protecting all those who fell. They watch as he struggles to prop himself up, and say that he made it just in time. He casted body enhancement, but it won't last forever, so they have to find a way to get out safely before it runs out. Getting right into action, the man who led the stomping earlier was now ordering everyone to get ropes. After a while, they all managed to pull everyone out of the pit, and successfully survived the fatal trap that could have wiped half the squad out. Dez falls to the ground, completely spent, and asks his members for health potions. He kept trying to cast the enchantment earlier, and they thought it was to help his friends. Now they realize that he noticed the trap far before anyone else did, and was trying to strengthen their bodies to save them. Even as they were beating him up, he was doing his best to protect them. The shocking understanding stuns them all and fills their bodies with guilt. They remember how he insisted on calling them comrades. Party 55 makes use of most of their healing potions, and Dez apologizes for consuming so much, despite not starting the search yet. Rena takes the blame, knowing she didn't listen despite his warnings. Just then, the people who were beating him up all tossed a bunch of their potions, telling him to take them. Unable to meet his eyes, they apologize for getting so worked up earlier. Now that they understand his abilities, Gant reaches his hand out, wanting to work together as comrades just like he said. Eager to earn his forgiveness, the burly men apologized, calling his name cutely. While the group finally got along, a figure watched them from the shadows. Saying they must be the party who passed the exam the fastest, she sets her eyes on one particular mage, and says she wants him in their group. Finally accepting Party 55 and Dez as their leader, the others ask for his instructions. Considering the things that just happened, they now know how dangerous the dungeon really is. That said, it just means that they have to avoid enemies and traps along the way. Their goal is the dungeon core. If they destroy it, the dungeon will settle down, and only weak monsters will show up. If this is the case, then will they scour the entire area to find it? That would be too inefficient, especially considering that there are other people searching. Even if it's a struggle to destroy the core, it wouldn't be strange if someone else takes the treasure after. As such, the leader decides that it'd be best to split up. Their party will go ahead and aim to destroy the core, while the remaining people look for the treasure. The main goal is to get the Gem of Wisdom as quickly and safely as possible. It's fairly dangerous to seek the core, but Dez assures them that they'll be fine. After all, he has the multiplicative enhancement spell to keep them strong. What's more, the reason the clan sent so many people is likely to split into groups. Others argue that they're just being used as replacements, and that the captain even admitted to it. Still, he doesn't want to believe that Cynthia's clan approaches things in such a twisted way. Regardless, they just have to succeed with the search and get right to work. Splitting up as planned, everyone has something to do. Dez warns Rena against going a certain direction, as there are enemies up ahead. They also need to be careful of monsters and traps, something they know well enough. Gara suddenly spoke, sharing that he was glad that they were able to make peace with the others. It's a very obvious thing to say, but everyone shares his sentiments. He didn't know what to do when they were assigned as the party leader, despite being embroiled in accusations of fraud. Now that the members were talking like that, he realized that they were all quite kind. Remembering how everyone shared their medical supply, a warm feeling fills his heart. That said, it's exactly why their plan cannot fail. If they don't destroy the core, those searching for the gem will die to strong monsters. He apologizes for taking on a crucial role without consulting them, but asks for their strength, nonetheless. After all, he doesn't want anyone there to die. They smile at his request, already willing to grant it without him asking. Instead of seeking their help, he should just suggest that they do their best together. Just then, the girl from before appeared. With the other members, she wonders if she can join them on undertaking such an important role. Despite being friendly, they're still unacquainted. The newcomers introduce themselves as Party 24. They're Meryl, Gant, Zeno, and Jin. Questioning what she meant, she says it's just as she said. It'd be dangerous to look for the core with just them, so they offered to stick together. Besides, his enchantment magic was downright amazing. The lady pulls his body to hers, saying she's taking quite a liking to the boy. Ignoring Rena's angry cries, she asks if he'd be interested in joining a different party. Infuriated, they say he's their member, and that she shouldn't try to poach people away. Irked by the interference, Meryl says she understands after seeing what happened and recalls how they were called the worst party. The reason they got over their weakness is because of the enchanter who made them strong. She continues going on about how sad it is that he's stuck with useless members. If they actually cared about him, it would be much better if they'd just let him go. Knowing she's probably right, the members of Party 55 fell silent, while a fist clenched tightly in anger. Dez tries to speak and say that it isn't that way, but Rena calls her attention. It seemed like she was going to start a fight, but she just argues that they're all D-rankers there. Meryl abhors the idea of being clumped together with them and insists that she's on a different level. With this, the two ladies shout at each other while Gan apologizes for the commission. To his understanding, the woman is the type who never listens once she's decided on something. Unfortunately, that something right now was recruiting him into their group. The girls throw insults at each other, but things don't escalate into a fist fight. With that said, he's being made to choose again, just like in the tavern with Cynthia. While Des tries to get out of choosing between the two women, the room suddenly shakes violently, sending them into confusion. They urgently look around, wondering where it came from. Seeing an opening, Rena immediately ran in to check, not caring about her comrades' warnings. The rest of the 55th try to chase after her, but a firm hand pulls the enchanter back, telling him to join them instead. Meryl says he must want to be with strong people instead of weak ones. To their confusion, he says it isn't true at all, and that their weakness is what actually makes them good people. They have no idea what he's saying, and as he lets go of those words, Brant's words come back to him, and he finally gets an understanding of what he meant. His thoughts are interrupted as his members call to him from the other room. Responding fast, he asks the 24th party to join as they lead the core destruction. In no time, the corridors and rooms were suddenly filled with chilling gusts. The temperature plummeted as soon as they entered the area. It's so bad that a slight touch of the walls instantly froze one of their potions solid. Quietly speaking, Rena calls Des over, alerting him to something dangerous nearby. In the middle of the hall, heavy footsteps crack the floor. An enormous ice golem emerged. The others question what it is, but it's obviously the boss of the dungeon. While panicking over the information, they see a smaller monster enter the room. The golem notices it too and sets its eye on its target. Without any provocation, it makes the first move and launches sharp pikes at the creature. It's cut apart, unable to even do anything against it. The adventurers fall pale and silent upon seeing this, and they only watch from afar, too afraid to take another step forward. It's an insanely strong monster, and any logical person would run right away. Unfortunately, they spot the dungeon core, just below the horrifying beast. It's ridiculous and basically asking for challengers to dare take on an impossible task. Among all of them, Rena was the only one confident, saying it'll all be okay in the end, as they have Dez's powerful enchantments on their side. For now, he uses the appraisal skill to check on the enemy. While the other stats are understandable, its vitality was a whopping 1,350 points. His enchantment is a special skill unlike any other enhancers, but he has to be honest and admit that they can't defeat it even with that power. A bit faster to catch on. Unlike his members, the 24th says they must be so weak that even multiplication won't be enough. With that said, they can't just accept failure, with the core sitting idly right behind the boss. Des thinks about it, and later says that while they can't kill it, it should be possible to block against its attacks. He can use vitality enhancement to boost everyone's defense. That way, even if the boss attacks reach, it won't matter, and they can run straight to the core. They recall the power that saved their friends from dying in the trap pit. While it was definitely impressive, they doubt that it can withstand the golem's attacks. To trust his every word, it'll take some serious guts to blindly follow. He assures them that he's checked everyone's stats and was sure of their defense points. Just then, he notices an empty space. Rena was nowhere to be found in the group. She was already dashing towards the enemy and telling Des to cast his enhancement magic. It was a reckless and ridiculous approach to charge in without even waiting for his buffs. Even Meryl finds it unbelievable. While they're all aware of his skill, trusting him enough to charge into danger was simply unthinkable. These logical and radical trains of thought do not matter to Rena, who was dating the boss to strike. Seeing its eyes, they say it's noticed her and hurry Des to use his spell already. With a loud war cry, he gripped his staff to get to work. However, nothing happens even after a while. He takes a closer look and realizes that the magic stone at the end was completely frozen. Panic started to set in, and he remembered the potion bottle that froze simply from touching the area's walls. The young man starts to scream, not knowing what to do since he can't cast magic. They turn to their comrade and see the Cyclops glare at her, activating its magic. Ice shards are shot right at Rena, who confidently stood her ground, unaware of the situation behind her. From the speed and span of the attack, they all knew that the girl wouldn't be able to attack. Loud cries erupted, but Rena suddenly fell on the ground. When Meryl jumped in to push her down, she tells the swordsman to stand fast as the next attack was coming right away. The next wave of icicles comes just like she said. While they barely managed to survive this time, they have to act fast and get out of there. The golem is relentless, and it kept shooting at them without wasting a second. They tried to move away, but something was wrong with the woman's leg. Large spikes had pierced through Meryl's thigh, and she couldn't help but curse over her mistake, wondering if this was the end for her. A tight grip suddenly held her arm, and Rena propped her up with her shoulder. She scolds the girl and tells her to run away alone, but there was no way she was leaving a comrade behind, especially one that saved her just moments ago. However, the reality is that they would both die if they kept saying such things. Another set of icicles shot out, but they're saved as a large shield is thrown to block their bodies. Turning their heads in surprise, they see Gara, who made it just in time. While saying there won't be a next time, the dwarf gets hit by a stray piece of his shield. As usual, he falls to the ground, unmoving and completely passed out. With this, they all start to panic as the next attack flies toward the three adventurers. This time, a huge burst of flames blasts the ice away. They're shocked, not expecting to see such a powerful spell from the group. Dorothy asks if the trio is okay, having neutralized the flurry with a level 3 fire spell. That said, she can't use magic anymore, and has completely drained her magic for the day. In the end, they're just ending up with more people to rescue, so they had to secure safety right away. Since there was no proper plan, they charged ahead to do whatever they could. Meanwhile, Dez was still frozen in place, along with his staff. Failing to think of a solution, he proceeds to blame himself. Because of his overconfidence in his skill, he came up with a plan that endangered his teammates. In other words, it's his fault that everyone there was going to die. He remembers Espada, calling him a good-for-nothing, who continued to act like he was on their level, despite being so incapable. Void of any faith in himself, he now believes in Adele and the others' words, labeling him as incompetent and nothing but a burden. While his comrades were doing their best to think of a solution, he was a spiraling mess filled with guilt. Just then, a firm grip snaps him out of it. Zeno was shaking him back to reality. He says the word useless, and Dez loses the color on his face as his heart sinks. However, it's not as he expected, as the companion suddenly says that it must be what they think about him. He had been drinking during the entire mission, and even now, he's the only one who isn't helping, explaining that he is a healer, and uses the alcohol to raise his body temperature. Surprisingly, he throws the liquid all over the young mage's frozen staff. The confusion is natural, so Zeno explains that alcohol doesn't freeze, and uses magic to heat the frozen staff up. It's only as effective as lukewarm water, but combined with his body heat, the crystal bursts into flames and is completely melted. Dez's eyes watched in wonder. Meanwhile, the room's temperature was continuing to drop, and their teammates were injured and inches away from death. There's a limit to how much they can dodge, and it seems they'd just about reached it. Merrill ridiculously tells Gant to carry them all as the man of the group. In the end, they confirm that a B-rank dungeon is too difficult for them. The golem attacks again, sending the usual rain of shards. They connect this time, but now, they emerge without any additional damage, encased in a familiar green glow. Recognizing the spell, they turn their heads to see Dez, brimming with his enchantment magic. He apologizes for being late, and shares that he's recovered with help from Zeno, whose hands have been hit with frostbite. Cheers ring out, as the others see their leader back in action. Surrounded by his magic, the young man's eyes were overflowing with determination as he faced the ice golem with unwavering strength. Confirming everyone's readiness, they start the counterattack. Dez enhances all of his teammates' vitality, strength, agility, mana recovery, mental strength, and healing. The monster launches its bicycle attack, but they all manage to evade every spike. In fact, all of them find that it was surprisingly easy. Dez tells everyone that they can't beat the boss, so their objective is to target the dungeon core behind the boss. Rena instantly goes for it and reaches the spot of the core easily. As she is about to destroy the core, she feels like this is the end. The monster senses her, so it blocks her way. They also notice that the levitating core is sinking to an icy shell. They worry that they will lose sight of it. Dez acts fast and suggests they do a diversion tactic. He explains that they have to draw the monster's attention while one of them tries to reach the core. Rena volunteers to be the one that gets it since she is the fastest. Seeing that the core is almost covered by an ice barrier now, they find that they are running out of time. They begin the operation, so most of the team gather in one spot and get the monster to look at them. It tries to swat them, and they dodge. Meanwhile, Rena is busy trying to run past the monster while its attention is not on her. The others are so overwhelmed trying to avoid every attack that they are all desperate for Rena to get it in time. Dez thinks that the safety of their entire brigade depends on this moment. Rena is about to get the core, but the barrier is still closing in on it. She tries to destroy it with a swing of her sword. She gets confident she did it, only to see that the ice barrier blocked her attempt. The others realize that the boss has quickened the barrier while it was fighting them. Dez sees that the opening to the barrier is so small now and thinks they have missed their chance. Everyone has now lost hope. Gant suddenly screams for them to give up. He reveals that he has jumped high while aiming at the core with his bow and arrow. He shouts that if one person fails, there will always be a replacement. His words remind Dez of Brant's reminder that they are all replaceable, and now he thinks he meant to give them a lesson. Gant fires his arrow, which goes speeding towards the small open hole of the ice barrier. The team does not see that the arrow is fast enough to reach before the hole gets plugged. Dorothy screams that she will not let him fail. She creates a fire spell and shoots it at the ice barrier until it melts. The arrowhead heads directly towards the arrow. The team is on the edge of their seats. Suddenly, the core breaks into pieces. Everyone can't believe that they managed to destroy the core and doesn't know how to react. Suddenly, the monster gets encased in ice. The air in the room suddenly becomes chill. The walls, ceiling, and floor also become encased with ice. They think that this must be how the monsters get neutralized after destroying the core. They cheer as they celebrate their success. Everyone praises Dez for his amazing enchantment and leadership. Rena, herself, jumps and hugs him. Dez does not take the credit and tells them that it was also due to everyone's power. They then notice a glowing stone levitating near the frozen monster. They marvel as they realize that the red stone is the gem of wisdom. They cheer more as they realize that they have completed their task. Meryl grabs the gem and licks it. She then tells Dez that if he wants the stone, he needs to join her party. The others are cringing that she still has not given up. She tells them that after the whole experience, she wants him even more. The others keep telling her to give the stone to them, but the lady playfully keeps it for herself. Jin, the quietest of Party 24, asks that she give it to him. Meryl tells him that she will never give it to anyone until Dez says yes to her offer. She then continues to be playfully selfish. Suddenly, Jin cuts both Merle and Xena with his dagger. The two then weaken and fall to the floor. While they are shocked, Jin knees Des in the stomach. Instantly, the man gets incapacitated. Gant demands to know why he did that. Jin now has the wisdom gem in his hand, and he tells the others that it was his goal all along to get it from them. He tells them that he wanted to be peaceful, but Meryl's insistence on having it for herself frustrated him. Gant asks why he did this when they are friends. Jin assures him that they are not friends, and that they are the ones who told him before that there are organizations that take advantage of others. Gant remembers that it is he and Zeno who said that to him. Jin then reveals that he came from the criminal organization known as the Black Underarm. He laughs as he tells them that he only infiltrated the Garden clan for his own goals. It angers Gant that he aims his arrow at him. Jin remains calm and effortlessly parries his arrow in mid-launch. The villain boasts about how they have no chance against him without Des. He also reveals that he is above C rank while he readies his blades for battle. He smiles and declares that he will end their life now that his cover has been blown. Jin rushes towards the team. Meanwhile, Des is still unconscious on the floor. Gan is frustrated, but tells the team they need to run since they have no chance against Jin. He then goes on to carry Des, but Jin is already behind him. The villain smiles as he declares that he can't let them escape. He swings his blades at him. Jin gets surprised to realize that his attack did not damage him. Everyone realized that Des was already awake. Jin deduces that he must have activated an enchantment spell before he fell. He admits to his targets that it was his mistake that he did not kill Des right away, thinking he might be of use to him. Now he says he just has to kill him first. The villain then changes his mind and goes for the exit instead. He sarcastically thanks them for making his job easy and insults them for being idiots who can't do anything without sticking together. Des feels guilty that he was not strong enough to see this coming and puts the failure of the mission on his shoulders. All of them then hear a voice telling Jin that he is the only idiot in the room. Meryl is revealed to still be conscious on the floor. She tells the villain that he should not underestimate them and criticizes him for not caring enough to remember her class. She reveals that she still has the wisdom gem in his hand and tells him that her class is a thief. Jin then checks his pockets and realizes that the gem is indeed not on his person. Meryl laughs and tells him it is what he deserved, only to go unconscious again. Jin laughs at his situation and admits that he has underestimated D-rankers like them. While he admits his loss, he swears with an angry face that he will end their lives next time. Before he disappears, he warns them that the Black Underarm is everywhere, so they better not trust anyone. Later, the team returns to the others in the brigade. They go on to aid the unconscious Meryl and Zeno. Des reviews that the incident has taught him the importance of comrades and the strength of unity. However, he also came to understand that being with the Garden means being targeted by many enemies. The next day, Rena, Dorothy, and Gura gather to talk. Dorothy informs the others that Des is with Commander Bent to report on the last mission. She worries that Des might be too deep in thought after what happened. In the office, Bent tells Des that he did a great job on this first mission and even went beyond his expectations. He believes that it was right after all for him to appoint him as the party leader. Des thanks him for the praise, but does not look happy. Bent sees this and assures him that completing a high-ranking mission is a great achievement for the 5th Brigade and that he should be in a more celebratory mood. Des tells him that he does not feel responsible for the mission's success and that he still feels useless for the damage they caused. Bent assures him that Meryl and Xena will be fine. They are currently being treated by the Garden's best healers, and Bent tells him that they are expected to heal without issues. In the medical area, Meryl and Xena are unconscious, lying on their beds while wearing oxygen masks. Still, Des feels like he should have been stronger. Bent assures him he did more than enough, and that he finally understands the importance of comrades he was trying to teach the brigade before. Des replies that it is also the reason that he is scared that something might happen again that will take his precious friends away. His eyes are filled with turmoil, envisioning that future. Back in the office, the vice commander voices her concern to Bent that he might have been assigned as the leader too soon. Bent worries that he might break soon, but they must allow this experience to be his trial. The vice commander agrees, but still takes away his booze. Meanwhile, Des is walking in the corridor, still thinking about how his comrades got hurt under his command. While he knows that no one died, he still worries about what will happen next time. He remembers Jin's threat of going back after them, and it makes him even more scared. His head hurts as the loss of his friends becomes more and more real. He gets so distracted that it is only now that he realizes that the corridor ends in a dark open space. He wonders how he missed this place before. Someone smiling is behind him and tells him that they have lured him into their territory, just as he asks who they are. 3 beams of energy fire at him. He is able to jump away, but he loses his balance and falls. He looks at the enemy and sees a levitating, white-haired woman with cloth covering her eyes and flowing red robes behind her like they are her wings. She tells him that she is interested in his enhancement abilities. Des senses that she is extremely dangerous. He uses his appraisal skill and gets overwhelmed by how monstrously high her stats are. She introduces herself as an agent of the Black Underarm and claims she came to kill him. Des remembers that the Black Underarm is the same organization Jin was in. Now the enemy in front of him is an S rank. He worries that she would eventually put everyone in danger, and so he gets the resolve to stop her. The enemy tells him that whatever he is thinking is useless and then blasts him with wind magic. She brags that weaklings like them can't hope to defeat someone as strong as her. She then blasts him with water magic, making him fall again. Still, the man tries to get up. She asks what he will do with no one to cast enchantment magic on and then blasts him with fire magic. It hits him, but the man still stands strong. The enemy is amused that he has enhanced himself. She unleashes her huge magic aura, making it obvious to Dez that his enchantment multiplication is no match for her. Still, he does not give up and stands his ground, which makes the enemy think he is foolish. She collects magic energy on her finger and announces that she will finish him off. She fires and the big ball of energy goes heading for Dez. He fears that this might be the moment that he dies. In this moment, the one thing he thinks of is Cynthia. Dorothy appears and asks her master what she is doing. The energy is still coming for Dez, but his attention switches to the question of why Dorothy just called the enemy her master. The energy hits him, but it explodes harmlessly into confetti and flower petals. Dez does not know how to react. Meanwhile, the woman congratulates herself for making such beautiful magic. She introduces herself as Rapham and says she is Dorothy's foster parent and magic teacher, as well as a member of Scythia's First Brigade. The information overwhelms Dez so much that he screams. In an instant, the dark area becomes Rapham's luxurious office. Dez is amazed that the entire area before was just created by magic. Meanwhile, Rapham tries to calm Dorothy's complaint that she tried to kill Dez by saying that she was just trying to guide him. She says she heard about him and wanted to meet him because he knows both Cynthia and Dorothy. She says she is disappointed that the moment she met him, he already looked like he had given up on life. The confused man asks what she means. She answers by asking why he tried to fight her earlier. Dez does not know what to say. She reprimands him for not running away when he knew that he had no chance of winning against her. Dez replies that running away means people might have gotten killed. Rapham makes him know that she would have just killed the others after she killed him. She tells him that the right choice was to run away and scream for help. Dez is surprised, but she continues on to say he could have found his commander or S-rank garden member. Dez's eyes widen, realizing he should have thought of that. Rapham continues to say that it is obvious to her that he is taking too much on his shoulders and probably thinks he is responsible for the injuries in the mission. She shouts that he can rely on others. Her words hit his heart. Dorothy holds his hand and tells him that her master is right. She asks that he not carry so much burden on his own when he should share the responsibility with everyone. She says that she too feels guilty that she did not have enough MP and that Rena and the others might also feel the same way with their lack of abilities. She gets near him and tells him that while he cares for everyone cares about him back. She guesses it must feel lonely not relying on others. The man can't help but tear up at her words. He now feels like an idiot for not realizing what it means to be a part of a party. His eyes fill up with tears at the realization that he has so many people to rely on. He feels embarrassed but can't stop crying as his heart gets lighter. Rapham watches with a smile while the man cries in Dorothy's arms. She remembers Cynthia mentioning that Dez is the type of person who worries too much, so she came to see what kind of man he is. She sees that despite his inexperience, he will become a great man someday. She also remembers Cynthia talking nonstop about Dez, so she knows she has feelings for him. She feels mischievous, wondering what reaction Cynthia will have if she finds out she has already met him. Surprisingly, Cynthia is already at her door and looks shocked to see the scene in the room. Rapham smiles at her as if she knows she just did something bad. Meanwhile, Dez is still crying in Dorothy's arms. Rapham looks at Cynthia just to see the look on her face. As she predicted, Cynthia is on the verge of tears, wondering why Dez is crying in some woman's chest. She becomes angry and her fiery gaze turns to Rapham. Despite this, the woman is just smiling back. Dez apologizes to Dorothy for crying on her. He felt embarrassed that he could not stop crying, only to realize that he was crying on her chest and got even more flustered. Meanwhile, Cynthia saw everything and is racked with jealousy and confusion. She keeps trying to figure out why Dez was crying and on a woman's chest at that. Dez tries to tell her that it was just a misunderstanding. She angrily tells him that he should cry on her chest instead, but she is so embarrassed that she whispers it instead to the point that no one can hear her. Cynthia starts to cry, panicking Dez and confusing Cynthia, all while Rapham watches in laughter. Elsewhere is the Maze Association, the organization that manages dungeons and adventurers. There at their headquarters, Adele just punched a wall out of frantic frustration. Mary wants him to calm down, but the man is too livid since he just found out that their party got demoted to C rank. Both Mary and Caro reluctantly accept it, since they have been failing dungeon explorations one after another. Others in the building talk about how laughable it is that Espada got demoted, riling up Adele even more. In his eyes, they look like evil people laughing at their misery. In front of them, they talk about how they were so cocky before and how it is now embarrassing that they have fallen so far. Mary and Caro are still calmly accepting that everyone hates them because of their bad attitude. On the other hand, Adele yells at their critics and calls them judging weaklings. He grabs one of the adventurers by the collar, so Mary tries to calm him down. The adventurer, being choked, insults the man further by telling him that he does not feel any strength from the choke. He boasts about how he would totally win if they got into a fight now. Espada backs away, unable to do anything about it. The adventurers start talking about an enchanter who used to be with Espada, and that the party started its decline after he left them. They also talk about the amazing new enchanter who joined the Garden Clan and think that he must have abandoned his former party. Hearing them talking makes Adele even angrier. However, he and his party have no choice but to leave the building. They go to the park to mope about their losses. Mary reviews that they have no money to hire a new enchanter, their equipment is already falling apart, and they can't make money because they keep failing dungeon raids, so their debts are increasing. She fears that the only path left is bankruptcy. Caro adds that another failure might even lead to their identification tags being confiscated, worrying Mary even more. Adele takes it all in while grinding his teeth. What bothers Caro even more is the rumor about Des and how it is true that they came into decline after they fired him. Mary adds on that their physical abilities have gotten more sluggish ever since he was gone. Adele theorizes that it must mean everything bad that happens must be Des's fault. He believes that the man must have put a curse on them. The thought makes him so angry that he wants to kill him. Mary tries to calm him, citing that it is hard to believe that their luck has been Des's fault. The group suddenly hears a man approaching them. It is Jin, and he tells them that they know of Des too. He goes on to explain that he went to a dungeon raid with him the other day and thought of him as a terrible enchanter. They ask who he is. Jin replies that it does not matter who he is, and that all they need to know is that he came to help them get revenge on Des. In the Great Library of Bristol, Des is at a desk reading his book with focus. He is astounded by the many things he is learning about enchantment magic. It humbles him to the point that he thinks he is too reliant on his unique multiplication skill, too blindly. He is most intrigued by what the book calls layering of enchantment magic. He reviews that it is the method of applying enchantment magic on a person multiple times. He loves that he is able to learn about it, but is disappointed that it is also considered forbidden and is legally prohibited. He then notices that someone is calling his name quietly. He looks to his side and sees Cynthia in her white hood disguise. It surprises him so much that he stands up and is about to shout her name. He looks around and sees people looking confused at him. Cynthia tells him that she has already completed her mission and has some free time to hang out with him in the library. She leans closer to him to see the book he is reading. Being so close to her makes Des conscious. Her face, which is so near to him, looks so beautiful in his eyes. Even her legs scraping against his make him awkward. The moment confirms to him that being in a library is nice. He spends his time side-eyeing Cynthia as she reads, and he can't get over how beautiful she is. Reviewing how beautiful, kind, and strong she is, he feels like he is out of her league. The wind suddenly blows Cynthia's hood off her head. In an instant, people recognize her and want to approach her. Despite the librarian telling the people to stay quiet, they still keep staring and talking about her. Meanwhile, Des and Cynthia try to quietly leave. Someone mentions her nickname of being the Ice Princess, making the woman so ashamed that she grabs Des's wrist for a quicker exit. This only makes matters worse, as people now wonder who she is with. They think they must be lovers, making the two red. It makes Cynthia want to get out even more, so she drags Des with her while she walks away. Des's attention goes to seeing her holding his wrist. The moment makes him hold hands with her instead. It makes him red, but he smiles. To him, it is like they are alone in the world. Once outside, Cynthia apologizes to Des for causing him trouble. The man tells her that he does not mind and is happy to get to spend time with her. His saying it makes her happy too. The moment gets ruined as Des asks about her nickname of Ice Princess, which makes the girl uncomfortable. She replies that people called her that the moment she became an S rank. She mentions that Rahim is called the Crimson Madness because of her destructive impulse once she starts fighting. Remembering their battle, Des thinks the name suits Rahim well. He thinks that Cynthia must have been given the name Ice Princess because of her beauty. It makes him want to see her fight someday. Rena and Gura arrive, looking troubled. They tell Des and Cynthia that Dorothy has been kidnapped. Des and the others return to the Garden Clan headquarters. There, Rahim informs them that she sent Dorothy to run some errands for her, but she did not come back and she can't find her, even with magic. She deduces that this means that someone caught her and is hiding her presence. An adventurer suddenly enters her office to inform Rahim that authorities have caught people shouting that they want Des in exchange for Dorothy. Des doesn't understand what he has to do with it, but the messenger does not know. He reports that the ones who captured her are members of Espada, making Des's eyes widen. Later, Des and the others go to the town jail. There, they see that Mary and Caro are in a jail cell. The two inform him that ever since he left, things had gone downhill for them, and even Adele started to act strangely. They tell him about how a man named Jin approached them for a chance at revenge against him. He wanted to kidnap Dorothy to lure Des out. They recount how they tried to stop Adele when he was kidnapping the incapacitated Dorothy, but he just swatted them away and left them to be his messenger. He told him of Adele's message for Des to come to Crystal Hollows with no S-rank people from the Garden Clan, or else Dorothy will die. Hearing his message makes Des angry. Later, Des, Rena, and Gura go to the cave of Crystal Hollows. There, they see Adele and Jin with a tied-up Dorothy. Dorothy screams for her friends, but she is unable to move. Adele sees Des with others with him when he specifically told him not to bring anyone, and it makes him angry. Jin says he does not mind them since he only brought those he deems to be weaklings. Des reprimands Adele for kidnapping his friend when he could have just talked with him. Adele keeps yelling as he tells him to stop acting high and mighty when it is his curse that is the reason Espada is in shambles. He demands that he make it up to you for all the damage he caused. Des replies that he has no idea what he is talking about since he never put a curse on them. Jin fans the flames by saying that Des is obviously lying to trick him. Rena has had enough and demands that they just give Dorothy back to them. Gura follows up that even if they think they are weak, they are more than enough to beat them with Des's enchantment magic. Jun merely smiles and goes on about how Black Underarm has many various institutions that study humans, magic, monsters, and items. He then suddenly injects Adele in his neck with a mysterious fluid. The confused Adele asks what he just did to him. Jin merely laughs at him and tells him that being his pawn is his only purpose. Suddenly, Adele's body starts to deform. It hurts so much that he would not stop screaming. It is to the point that the deformed Adele crawls on the ground. He sees Des and reaches out for help. Suddenly, he gets enveloped in bright red light. Once Des opens his eyes from the brightness, he sees a giant serpentine dragon in place of Adele. Des and the others are confused about what just happened. Seeing that the question comes after, he orders his team to run. The monster hits the ceiling, making rocks rain down everywhere. After getting back up, Des looks around to see that Rina and Gara have been incapacitated by the rocks. Meanwhile, the monster is still on the loose. It is hard to believe that he thinks Adele became the monster and deduces that it might be some kind of experiment. He uses appraisal and sees that its name is indeed Adele, and that he is of the Hydra race now. It is at this point that it hits him that a human has turned into a monster. The very notion disgusts Des, and he deems this the work of the devil. Furthermore, a scan of the monster's status confirms to him that it is way too strong for them. He believes that even with his enchantment magic, there is no way to win. Des is then shocked to see that Dorothy is already near him. She tells him that the impact of the rocks on her managed to cut her ropes. Des suddenly pushes her down as the monster's giant tail almost hits them. It hits the rock wall beside them instead, making more rocks fall. He determines that being hit by it would kill him instantly. Meanwhile, Rian and Gara have already woken up and worry that they can't escape because the exit has been filled up with rocks. Rina volunteers to be enhanced, but Des informs her that it won't be enough. After thinking things through, Des decides that the only way to beat Adele in his monster form is to use the layering technique. Dorothy pleads with him not to use such forbidden magic. Rina asks if layering means casting an enchantment spell multiple times. Des confirms it and clarifies that it allows him to endlessly power up someone. Rina gets excited that she is about to be the strongest in the world, but Des says he will use it on himself instead. Dorothy does not like it and explains that the side effect is that the target of the spell will have their body destroyed after it wears off. He fears that this will mean Des will end up bedridden or dead, and so begs him not to use it. She is about to tell him how he should use it instead, but Des gestures to her to stop talking. He tells her that Adele is his former party member, and while he was a jerk who endlessly tormented him, he feels somewhat responsible that Adele turned out the way he did. He pleads that Dorothy let him go since this is his responsibility to fix. Dorothy becomes speechless and allows him to walk towards the monster. With its size, horns, and fangs, it looks intimidating. Des reminds Adele of the time he told him he was exiled from the party and how he thought he was a horrible person who treated him like garbage. He then continues to say that he met many companions after he got exiled and learned the happiness of having companions. He declares that he learned from his experience that he should have talked things through with him. He tells him how he felt like the party abandoned him, but that he also knew that they would not be able to get by without him. He screams out to the monster that he abandoned them too. Des removes his coat and declares that they should talk it out now. The Hydra blasts him with its energy breath. Despite the beam coming, Des remains unmoving from his spot. He faces the upcoming attack with resolve in his eyes. It explodes. Still, Des remains unharmed as he goes on to double, triple, and then quadruple his enhancements on himself until his strength and vitality reach their peak. He comes out of the explosion with golden light enveloping his body. He yells out to the monster that they should fight. The monster roars back. The Hydra opens its giant mouth to eat Des. Just as Dorothy, Rina, and Gara thought their friend was dead, he suddenly opens his mouth again with his sheer strength gripping the monster's teeth. Des hypes himself up until he breaks its teeth. The monster goes into agony. While it is distracted, Des backs away, and then runs again towards it and punches it in the belly. Again, the monster agonizes. The Hydra blasts him with its energy breath, but the man stays unharmed. It claws him with its giant fingers, but again Des stands in his spot, unharmed. Des grabs its tail and slams the giant. Being overwhelmed angers the monster, who roars. It attacks with a tail strike. The impact is so powerful that it causes shockwaves and makes the cave tremble. It turns out Des managed to evade, and now he is ready to punch the creature. He looks into the creature's eyes, seeing it as Adele. Then he punches it right at the center of its head. Finally, the Hydra goes down for the count. It suddenly glows brightly until it transforms back into Adele's incapacitated human form. The others cheer to see their friend win. Suddenly, Des feels excruciating pain. Des can feel the side effects of layering upon him. Status windows keep appearing to warn him of his body's multiple damages. Suddenly, he falls to the ground. Rina, Dorothy, and Gara worry for him and do not know what to do. Meanwhile, Des can't move and can feel his body breaking down every second. Meanwhile, Adele has gained consciousness. He screams Des's name in anger and accuses him of trying to kill him. Dorothy can't take it anymore and screams for him to stop. This instantly silences Adele, and even her friends are shocked to hear her be so loud for the first time. Dorothy accuses Adele of not understanding Des and reveals to him that he could have just used the layering enchantment on his enemy. Adele is shocked and so asks what she means. She explains that Des knew beforehand that his body would be destroyed if he used layering, yet instead of just using layering on Adele to defeat him, he used it on himself. She admits that she was about to suggest that he just use it on Adele, but that Des knew what she was about to say and stopped her. She lets Adele understand that he chose a way to destroy himself instead of himself. She screams out that he tried to face a comrade head-on because he was trying to help him. Dorothy accuses him of not understanding that Des is not the kind of man who would hold a grudge. Adele's eyes are wide open as he takes it all in. She asks that he not let Des suffer any longer. Meanwhile, Jin is approaching them. He shouts at them for causing a melodramatic scene. His mood becomes better as he knows that he can kill them as they are right now. With a swing of his blade, Rina, Dorothy, and Gara get pushed aside away from Dez. Dez worries for his friends, but Jin is already preparing an energy attack on him. He fires it, making Dez brace for impact. Adele suddenly pushes him out of the way, shocking him. The beam instead hits Adele. The confused Dez screams for him. In the aftermath, Adele's body gets more damaged. Dez asks him why he protected him. Adele tells him that comrades help each other even if they have to sacrifice themselves. His answer makes Dez tear up. Jin suddenly kicks Adele. Dez demands he not lay a hand on him, but Jin just mocks him by saying he can't hear him. He gets ready to kill him, only for an energy beam to fire near him. Jin is shocked, and he sees that Cynthia and Rafim have arrived. The enemy becomes nervous, knowing he stands no chance against them. He readies the injection full of poison and threatens to put it in Dez if the two S-ranks move. He boasts about how he will die before they can even lift a finger. In an instant, his chest gets slice marks, leaving him confused and in pain. The observing Dez recalls how he thought Cynthia got the name Ice Princess because of her beauty. It turns out Cynthia was the one who gave Jin the wounds and left him on the floor. She tells the enemy to shut up and calls him scum. Dez came to realize her nickname came from her strength and coldness in battle. Right now, her face has so much disdain for her enemy. Cynthia then goes to Dez and asks the others to take him to the Garden Clan immediately. Seeing her instantly end the conflict makes Dez feel useless. In his head, he is apologizing to Cynthia for troubling her and grieving for his career as an adventurer coming to an end. He remembers making the promise with her as kids to go adventuring together and apologizes for that too. Later, the gang returns to the Garden Clan headquarters. Dez is at the garden infirmary, lying on a bed, feeling awkward since both Rina and Cynthia keep fighting over who will feed him. He insists that he can eat by himself, but the girls tell him he should not push himself. Merle, Gant, and Zeno suddenly enter the room, and Merle volunteers to feed him too. Dez is glad to see Merle and Zeno all healed up. Gant tells him that he was surprised to hear that he was hospitalized and was worried since the treatment wasn't possible. It turns out Commander Bent is also lying on a bed next to Dez, and Gant thanks him for erasing the side effects of layering enchantment. Dez corrects him, stating that the commander took all the side effects himself. He is about to say sorry, but Bent stops him. He tells him that it is his duty as a commander to do what's best for his subordinates, and that it does not matter to him that he can't move anyway since he does not go out as an adventurer anymore. Dez still feels guilty since his daily life will be difficult, and he was only pardoned for using a forbidden technique because of the garden's intervention. The others think what he did was justified because it was self-defense. Bent assures him he is fine, and that it is an honor for him to put his body on the line for a promising young talent. He also has hope that his condition can be cured since there are still many unknown items and treasures out there in dungeons just waiting to be discovered. He believes that it would only be a matter of time until something that can heal him will be discovered. Since Dez feels responsible for his condition, he asks that he find the item for him. Dez answers with great resolve that he will find it. Everyone in the room says that they are glad to help. Bent goes to business and tells Dez that he will assign him an important business. Later, the entire 5th Brigade is called to the lobby. All of them are confused about why they were called. The vice commander appears and tells of a new announcement and a mission. She announces that until the commander recovers, Dez will be the acting commander of the 5th Brigade. The people are shocked and don't know what to think. Dez tells them that he is new and knows that many of them will complain about the decision to make him their leader. They tell him that no one has complaints, shocking the man. They voice out that they know how amazing he is and know he is worthy of being their leader. Seeing them all support him brings a tear to Dez's eyes. He tells them that he is looking forward to working for them, making them cheer. Later, Dez walks the corridor until his party meets with him to get ready for their next mission. Meanwhile, Cynthia and Rafim are hiding while watching over them. Cynthia cries as she wants to go to the mission with Dez too. As the party heads forth, Merle, Gant, and Zeno say farewell to them. Meanwhile, Dez looks at a window where he spots Adele in his infirmary bed inside with Mary and Carol visiting him. The three see him out the window too. Adele gestures hi to him and Dez gestures hi back with a smile. He and his party go on their way to the mission with smiling faces. Meanwhile, Bent is also looking out the window and is smiling at seeing Dez happy. Later, Dez and his party prepare to enter the dungeon cave in front of them. He is about to cast an enchantment on everyone, but Rina runs inside before he can. Meanwhile, we go back to Jin, who is still down from his wounds from Cynthia. A woman approaches him and tells him he is such a handful. She then gives his body healing magic. While healing him, Jin wakes up. The first words he says are that he will never forgive Cynthia for making a fool of him. The woman asks if he found anyone useful. He replies that he met someone with incredible enchantment magic, and that his name is Dez. The woman is intrigued. The green healing light she was giving Jin suddenly turns red. Jin demands that she stop giving him healing magic before it overwhelms his body. It is too late as his body turns to nothing. She sarcastically tells herself that she went overboard. She speaks of Dez's name and how he seems interesting to her. In the Garden Clan's base, the 5th Brigade's acting captain was busy with paperwork. Dez wrote and read continuously, but dropped hopelessly from the unending tasks. Unfortunately, things were about to get worse, as the vice captain dropped even more stacks of paper on his desk. He couldn't even think about finishing everything by tomorrow, and is mercilessly told to do the impossible and complete all of it by today. While he continued to write in tears, he was doing well for someone not used to the work. While scribbling on the paper, a new bracelet on his wrist pinged. His crime was excused, but he has to wear a bracelet that reverses stacked enhancement effects. The young man became the brigade's temporary captain, with Brant gone. This means he has to create exploration plans for dungeons they're going to conquer, compile reports for the council meetings, evaluate individual performances of the members, and even promote well-performing personnel. His new role chases him with management duties he's never done before, so now he was itching to move his body during the next combat training. Fortunately, it won't be too long, and will be held after 4 days. After the battle with Adel, Dez's stats improved by a lot, and he's also training to become stronger. By enhancing himself, he's even gotten good enough to spar with other members. That said, his intelligence stat was still at 0. His party suddenly burst into the room, loudly greeting their party member. Rena's face doesn't even lose its bright smile, while she asks if he's okay. On the other hand, Dorothy tells her off for entering the captain's office without permission. She's told not to be so uptight, and while the vice captain was frowning, Dez happily returned their greeting. He's told to quit the management work and head to a dungeon with them. The proposition makes the second-in-command scold them, but a piece of paper is thrust by her face. It's a document showing the brigade's insufficient conquest count for the month. As an official, even she has no choice but to give in to the predicament. With this, Party 55 immediately heads out to conquer a dungeon. They're against goblins right off the bat, but this was nothing new and enhancement magic was already applied as necessary. The shield bearer's vitality was boosted, the mage's intelligence was increased, and the sword fighter's strength maximized. Like before, their teamwork was impeccable to say the least, and they were conquering dungeons with the leadership of an amazing enchanter. Everyone's stats were rising gradually, and they were becoming capable of fighting to some extent. Back at the base, Cynthia called to her childhood friend, noting how hard he's working as the captain. The supposedly ice-cold queen gave him a warm smile, sharing how she's been hearing his name from various places. With his denial, she advises him against being so modest, and to be more confident. This makes him blush, but the moment is ruined as Rena clings to the young man's arm encouragingly. Just then, the sound of hooves clomping on the ground came. A bunch of men on horseback entered the gates, and the 1st Brigade's commander reacted immediately. She bowed politely and silently, while the little swordswoman questioned who they were. The person leading the group and sitting tall was none other than the founder of the garden himself. He was Viscount Rudark, the most important person there. Turning to Cynthia, he asked for an update on a certain matter they discussed. With her head still down, she assures that they're diligently searching, to which he asks her to rely on his support. With this, he then faces Dez, who is not expecting the proud founder's attention. Acknowledging him as the new and temporary captain, Rudark says he has expectations, and follows up with a keen gaze at the boy. This flusters the young man, who then tenses and stutters. The founder leaves with his men just like that, allowing the enchanter to ask his friend about the matter they're talking about. It's regarding the S-rank dungeon that Briston takes pride in, the Great Navel, which they are looking to conquer soon. The labyrinth city of Briston houses the world's only S-rank dungeon, the Great Navel. It also has guilds of various sizes, which of course employs several adventures for quests. A lot of them aim to conquer the S-rank dungeon said to hold invaluable treasure in its treacherous depths. The first to conquer it will have their name carved in history, but no one has ever opened the massive door that blocks the entrance. Walking through the clan's corridors, Dez questions if it's really okay for him to be in the meeting. It is only natural, since he's the captain of the 5th Brigade, and while this is temporary, it's still part of his responsibilities. The doors to the room opened, revealing the rest of the captains already waiting inside. Seeing them for the first time, the young one silently yelps in his mind. Fortunately, Cynthia takes the initiative to break the ice, and introduces him to everyone. With his sheepish greeting asking them to take care of him, he's introduced to Iris, the seemingly fiery captain of the 3rd Brigade, who shoots him a stern glare. Sitting across them is Herman, a calm and calculating man who serves as the 4th Brigade's captain. There's one more person, Valor, commander of the 2nd, but he's absent. The rapid rundown makes Dez feel extremely out of place. It's said that the captains are as strong as the 1st Brigade members, but he's nowhere near as strong or intimidating as they are. The meeting alone was daunting, but Rudark entered with a commanding tone, eager to start the discussion. He sees the 5th stand-in, still unable to speak properly from the pressure. Fortunately, the vice captain was with him, and was prepared to assist. With the founder's approval, the meeting finally kicked off with Cynthia's report. The monthly gathering brings together the clan's highest decision-making body, composed of the captains and the founder. The goal is to devise a strategy to conquer the S-rank dungeon, and what's decided there is taken back and turned into actual plans by the captains. There's also an obligation to submit reports that were compiled during times they're cooped up. These reports include detailed non-conquest statuses and financial audits. With his vice captain's support, Dez wraps his side up, saying they're generally following the plan. After commending him, Rudark leads the discussion to the next topic, which is none other than opening the door to the Great Navel. Unfortunately, there is no progress on the matter. This makes the founder scream in anger, infuriated that they couldn't grasp anything even after a month. Surprisingly, he even brings up the amount of money he's invested in the clan. Noticing Dez's face, Iris gives a cheeky grin and says the meetings are always like that. They were all used to it by now, and know the founder to get impatient about various things. Rudark is a noble serving the Briston Lord, but secretly invested all his money into the garden. His only goal is to conquer the Great Navel, and his sole purpose is to find the ancient civilization's legacy sleeping inside it. If he presents that to the king, then he might just become Bristol's next lord. The captain disclaims all she said, brushing it off as the prevalent rumor. In any case, they're ordered to find a way to enter the Great Navel, no matter what. Hearing the threat to strip them of their title as captains, Iris loses her patience and bands on the table, questioning if he's actually saying that. While she shamelessly gets into a heated argument with the impatient founder, Herman chimed in, asking to be given her brigade's budget instead. Just like that, another person is dragged into the relentless shouting, while Cynthia sat quietly on her chair, sick of the incessant noise. Wanting to do something about it for her, Des raised his hand cautiously, and ended up getting the entire room's attention. He powers through the nervousness, saying they have to prioritize information. Something must have already surfaced in and out of the territory, so he suggests forming alliances with other clans to share information. After an awkward silence, Cynthia shares his sentiments, adding that there are several clans she's on good terms with. Rudark refuses this completely, since it risks being left behind or betrayed by others. He'd rather have them search for the information outside, if it really is there. This makes Iris scream again, scolding him for the reckless plan. Just like that, Des is given a glimpse of the clan's inner workings, and how difficult it is to reach a common decision. Sick of the fact that they aren't getting anywhere, the founder bangs his fist on the table, and demands to know where the 2nd Brigade commander is. Unfortunately, he's away and moving on a separate matter with Rafim. Walking along the streets, the muscular old man locates the Black Bracers' hideout and gets ready to move in. The sorceress reminds him not to let his guard down, which only makes him scoff. In the middle of the city, the 2 members of the garden stood in front of a building, accompanied by authorities. Rafim questioned if they were in the right place, noting that it was too quiet. The men assure her that they're definitely in the Black Bracers' hideout. Recalling the recent incidents that transpired, she worries about the gang possessing elixirs for human body mutation. Again, she tells her comrade to be careful, but he just intends to round all the enemies up before they can do anything. Valor kicks the doors open, uncaringly excusing the uninvited entrance. There, he sees a bunch of adventurers, staring from the loud and surprising arrival. Rafim can't help but feel awkward, and wonders why he couldn't do this in a smarter way. Standing his ground, he argues that destroying, defeating, and restraining is a pretty smart method. The people inside finally react and demand to know who they are. With one good look, they realize that it's Bristol's guard unit and the garden's people. They charged with weapons, but Rafim just chuckled in amusement. As punishment for holding weapons, she lifts most of them up with magic and quickly subdues an entire group alone. Meanwhile, a shady and hooded figure instructs a man to use the child. Quickly complying, he takes a whistle out and blows into it. As soon as he does, a large crack appears on the wall, and it soon breaks open to reveal a wolf-man hybrid. The 2 garden members are on guard. Valor wonders if it's a demi-human monster, but Rafim refutes it, as she's never seen this kind. In other words, it's a human who's been affected by the mutation elixir. As it's different from the Hydra in the report, she reckons it's a different type that preserves the mind. To get more details, the S-ranker intends to ask the leader. After a quick scan through the crowd, she finds the hooded woman who gave the order, and quickly identifies her as the person to capture. For now, she moves on her own, and leaves the small fry to the old man. While his partner goes after their main target, Valor finds the weaklings too troublesome, and provokes them into attacking all at once. The gang members feel like they can handle one person, but this is quickly proven wrong as the brigade captain plows through their ranks. Seeing their comrades overpowered, the rest soon realize that he might be the garden's iron-armed adventurer. It was the mutated human's turn to right, and raised its claws with a resounding roar. Valor remained completely unfazed, instead unleashing a punch towards his enemy. The beast leapt up, proving its commendable agility against the adventurer. Seeing this, the others regained hope and cheered him on. This is short-lived as the captain makes his move. With the snap of his fingers, 2 beams of light cut through the beast's body like it was nothing. Everyone is silenced, and he clears the misunderstanding by reminding everyone that he's a mage. While this was happening, Rafim was also busy chasing after the suspected leader. All her spells missed, as the woman was surprisingly adept at dodging. Soon enough, she's cornered into a room she can't get out of. Despite admitting this, the smile had not left her face even then. The adventurer asks if she's the Black Bracers' leader. She's given a vague and dismissive answer, so she decides to interrogate the suspect thoroughly later on. Waving her hands around, Rafim uses her magic and attacks the woman, who again dodges effortlessly. The game of cat and mouse goes on for quite a while, but the S-ranker smiles and calls her escape sloppy. With a powerful burst of mana, something appears from above and cuts the target's arm right off. Despite being troubled, the woman just laughed. It was Kate, who was ever so calm despite losing an entire limb. Finally seeing her face completely, Rafim was stunned as she recognized the person under the hood. Unfortunately, this moment of surprise and distraction allows the target to break through the window and escape the building. Before escaping, she commends the mage, known as the 1st Brigade's Crimson Madness. Kate restores her arm within mere seconds and promises to kill her enemy soon enough. With her disappearance, Rafim confirms who she is. Valor's support allows the guards to subdue the other criminals, leaving the wolf human alive but riddled with holes. He's pretty satisfied with the work he's done throughout the base, although the mage suggests that he might have gone too far against the beast. She tries to lecture him about learning to show restraint, but he brightly reasons that there's no need for mercy toward evildoers. Unable to argue, Rafim just shares that she lost the woman, but figured her identity out. The emblem on her arm was recognizable and unmistakable, so much so that she instantly identified a certain woman. Given all that happened, they obtained great and useful information. Valor gives her a map, with cross marks spread across the parchment. It seems to lead to the key that'll allow them to enter the Great Navel. From one look, it seems to be the location of the nightmarish dungeon, also known as the Fifth Terror. Several days after the clan's hideout was raided, the garden captains and founder had another meeting to discuss. Cynthia had personally called for it, and started by thanking them for answering her request. For now, she asks Valor to show them the fruits of their mission. The old man puts the marked map on the table, earning Rudark's intrigue and curiosity. Explaining how it was obtained in the hideout raided days ago, the first captain smiles, and proudly says that the marked locations indicate a dungeon where the 5 keys to the Great Navel are. While Dez is surprised to hear that there are so many, a worried expression is drawn over the other captains' faces. A restrained smirk of triumph started to appear on the founder. As they've never heard of such a dungeon, skepticism among the group is only natural, but Valor reaffirms its existence with his thorough research on ancient texts. Among the Fifth Terror, the 5 nightmares, are the Nether Flame Mausoleum, the Soul Devourer's Cave, the Divine Punishment Corridor, the Infinite Prison, and the Underworld King's Mausoleum. The nightmares themselves are Ultra A-rank equivalent high-difficulty dungeons. Cynthia says all 5 are scattered outside of Briston, a statement that catches varying reactions among the group of captains. In other words, to enter the Great Navel, they have to conquer the 5 nightmares, which is insane in itself. A loud and sharp clap cuts through their thoughts, and Rudark brightly praises Cynthia for figuring this all out. With this information, he believes they can finally outrun all the other clans in their bid for glory. After lifting him up, she crushes his hope and says the information has been passed to the guards. He was stunned and in disbelief. By letting the guards know, it's also likely that they've already informed the Labyrinth Association. Just like that, the game-changing information was going to be made public. The founder grit his teeth in frustration. In any case, the entire kingdom will be in an uproar once the information is out, and the battle for prestige is going to get even hotter. It's natural to assume that everyone will rush to conquer the 5 nightmares to retrieve the keys. However, Valor doesn't think that it's going to be that simple. Conquering the dungeons and getting the keys will definitely be steps closer to the goal, but doing so would also put huge targets on their backs. There's no need to rush it, as they can just steal the keys from those that bring them back. While it isn't the cleanest method, it definitely is one that would work. With all that said, Rudark regains his joy and declares they're going to conquer all 5 simultaneously. It was a ridiculously bold and arrogant goal, so much so that all the captains stared at him in disbelief. Regardless, he orders everyone to obtain all 5 keys and immediately defeat the Great Navel. Even Cynthia raises her voice this time, arguing that it's pure recklessness on his part, more so with most of the 1st Brigade off on an expedition. Unwilling to be left behind by others, Rudark pulls his founder card and gives absolute orders. His loud incompetence was blaring once again. Ignoring the snide remarks, he also notes the power of their newest member's enhancement magic. Apparently, the head of the clan has heard about him joining the garden and immediately gathering members to conquer a B-rank dungeon. Like a fool, he makes the connection and says conquering an A rank would be easy with him. Not running out of bold and reckless moves, Rudark puts him in charge of the entire mission. Herman chimes in and asks for the responsibility as it's too dangerous to leave to a child. This somehow triggers Iris, who is now fighting back to take control of the dungeon conquering. The founder silences them all, calling everyone incompetent, and smiles as he leans on Dez, slowly putting all that burden on his shoulders. Everyone is indeed silenced, but by a different sinister presence inside the room. With a commanding tone, Cynthia takes the responsibility and vows to conquer all as ordered. The others are shocked by the brazen declaration, while she just demands full control over the strategy. Even Rudark can't go against her, so he sighs in resignation and leaves the matter to them, but emphasizes how important it is to do this fast. The people in the room share wary gazes among each other, knowing how daunting the task at hand was. Even for the garden, this is extremely reckless, and Dez now has no choice but to be part of the entire mess. Walking through the corridors of the clan building, Dez couldn't help but be tense. Even after the meeting, the atmosphere around Cynthia was still worthy of the Ice Queen. It seems it can't be helped, especially with the founder's actions. Just then, a familiar voice called to the two of them. It was Rafim, saying there's something she'd like to discuss. Knowing how busy they must be, she apologizes for taking their time, and notes how several illegal potions were seized during the raid on the Black Bracers. The two are shocked by the news, already getting an idea of what the potions might be. Unfortunately, the mage nods in confirmation, saying it's the same mutation elixir Jin fed Adel. She adds that the one they fought in the hideout was very stable compared to the Hydra. In other words, they might have found a way to mass produce with minimized side effects. Having faced the threat themselves, they knew this was terrible news. Immense casualties are imminent if such creatures were spread across the kingdom. Although they're a criminal organization, Cynthia knows they shouldn't have the resources and wonders if someone is collaborating with them. Rafim shares that she encountered a familiar woman in the hideout. Kate's hooded figure flashed in her mind. She's part of an infamous group the Black Bracers can't even compare to, the Five Fingers. The name sounds quite sinister, but Dez has to admit that he doesn't know who they are and ask for an explanation. They are a legendary clan, made up of 5 S-rank adventurers. Each is skilled in their own right and is willing to do anything for their goals. The woman in the hideout is Kate, a hedonistic mage and genius alchemist. Creating forbidden drugs would be like child's play to her. The Five Fingers lost their leaders several years ago and have disappeared ever since. Based on the recent events, there's a possibility that they're moving again. The mere thought makes them all ponder in silence until Cynthia breaks it and suggests talking to a certain person. While Des is confused by the vagueness, Rafim says it's up to her if she wants to. An old and thick key dangled around her waist, while the trio descended deep into the Chevalier Garden's basement. Although it's temporary, Cynthia decides that the 5th captain should know what's there. Upon reaching the doors at the bottom, they enter a small room and are greeted by surging and pulsing magic. It was a powerful barrier, personally created by Rafim to serve as an impenetrable prison. They put the key into the singular hole there and twist. The mana swirls, almost like a portal, and reveals the prisoner on the other side. A rugged and uncannily familiar man was seated, silently staring at the floor of his cage. This person is the Five Fingers leader, Don Osric. In addition to this, he also served as the captain of the Garden's 1st Brigade. Des couldn't believe the connections, and questions why such a person was stuck at the bottom of the clan headquarters. Due to the enormity of his power, keeping him there is safer than in the central prison. He's locked in there with Raffin's 5-layer barrier that's indestructible from the inside. Stepping forward to start the interrogation, the mage accuses the Five Fingers of controlling the Black Bracer and questions their scheme. Met with silence, Des asks what the prisoner's crime is. Apparently, he murdered clan members mercilessly, leaked classified information, used prohibited drugs, participated in human trafficking, and worst of all, plotted to overthrow the state. The mention of the crime hung in the air for a quiet moment, until Des repeated it in absolute disbelief. Hearing him, Don turns toward the young man and asks if he's the rumored enhancement mage. It's a mystery how the imprisoned man even knows about him, but the enemy's leader even notes how he's said to use some interesting magic. The mention of multiplicative enhancement provokes Des, but the one being interrogated doesn't say a thing, not even sparing him a glance. Cynthia discourages him from trying to even have a proper conversation. Moving on, Rafim mentions the infamous 5 nightmares, and says they must be targeting the S-rank dungeon as well. To their surprise, he warns them against touching the dungeon. That said, he understands that they must also have their own circumstances. The 5th terror isn't just a series of dungeons, but a trial. With an eerie tone, Don says conquering it will become a crossroads of fate for them all. The trio resurfaces soon after, frowning as they didn't get any useful information. Seeing Des' troubled face, Cynthia couldn't help herself and reveals that the former captain committed one more crime, which was stacking enhancement magic. It takes the young man a few moments to make the connection, but in other words, Don, the former 1st Brigade captain and current Five Fingers leader, is an enhancement mage just like him. On the outskirts of Briston, the sound of swinging metal disturbed the peace. Rena was deep in the forest, panting and exhausted from all the training she's doing. In the guild, she heard about the 5 nightmares, as well as how they're the keys to enter the Great Navel. This was all everyone in the town was talking about, so she couldn't help but want to go too. She suggested a mission into it with a bright smile, not minding her team members' warnings about it being a dangerous dungeon. The swordsman was certain that they'd win, if Des was by their side. That said, she's reminded that their limit was a B-rank dungeon. Even with his enchantments, she pouted in frustration. In that moment, she decided to get so strong that even A-rank dungeons don't stand a chance. Without waiting for their answer, the energetic adventurer ran off to train on her own. She's quite erratic, even for them, but for whatever purpose. Getting stronger is the sound logic for their kind. That way, they at least won't cause any trouble for their dear enchanter. With that in mind, Rena spent hours alone in the forest, certain she can become great if she tries. Becoming a burden to her captain wasn't an option anymore. Since then, Dorothy has also been training magic under a master, while Gara returned to his family's workshop to train and fetch some new equipment. Despite their warnings, the two obviously intended to head into the 5 nightmares as well. They were all teammates, but none was going to lose out on the other. While taking a break from her physical training, Rena surprisingly took out a book she borrowed from the guild library. It's a military manual, containing lessons on the Eastern sword technique. The first passage instructs her to cut 12 falling leaves from a tree. She knows that her arm strength is no good on its own, but the beast woman is confident in her speed and agility. Trying the drill out, she swings her blade with amazing speed and cuts a few leaves down. However, she's shocked as she only manages to cut 3 out of 12. She was not one to give up so easily, so Rena continued to swing at falling leaves the entire day, persisting even through the times she lost her breath. The sound of her blade continued, and night soon fell over Briston. Back in the lodging, she winced and stomped her feet, while applying stinging medicine on her hands' wounds. It would have been easy if she had Des' multiplicative enhancement, but she shakes the thoughts out of her mind. Clenching her fist tight, she vows to manage it with her own individual power. With this, she returns to the forest early the next morning, but is perplexed to find someone else by her spot. The man before her was extremely still, almost making her question if he was even alive. Given how tattered his clothes are, he might be some vagrant. Pushing the judgment aside, Rena moves along to continue with her training. Soon enough, the sounds of a swinging sword came again. Even after an entire day, she was still stuck at cutting 3 leaves. She was cursing and was starting to lose hope when an odd noise suddenly came from nearby. In the nearby bushes, she sees a bunch of thieves running away with a new bag of stolen goods. Their eyes met and the two parties froze. Taking their swords out, they tell her to move away if she doesn't want to get hurt. Unfortunately, the righteous adventurer can't just let a bunch of thieves escape. Just like that, a battle was at hand. The men were pretty confident in themselves, but had no idea how agile she is. The girl attacked from above with all her might, and as soon as their blades clashed, her weapon was sent flying. She was completely defenseless. At that moment, they figured out that she has no strength despite her speed. All she could do was ask them to wait. Something or someone suddenly struck the men from behind, taking everyone by surprise. The vagrant man from earlier had just saved her life and killed the enemies in one blow. He commends her leg strength, but says she's being used by her speed. Unwilling to take the advice, she argues that she just let her guard down a little. He tells her to try reversing her pivot foot when cutting back. Seeing her stand still in confusion, the odd man repeats the instruction. His attitude irks her for a while, but Rina decides to humor him, and as such begins following the order. The leaves fell once more, and like always, she swung her blade around to take the first 3 apart. The swordswoman reverses her pivot foot as told, and immediately breaks through her limit of 3 leaves. Another is cut in half, and her eyes beamed in delight after cutting a total of 5 leaves. With an unbelieving exclamation, filled with wonder, she asks the man who he is. Instead of answering her question, he brushes his hair up, revealing icy blue eyes. The man says speed is a weapon that, when trained to its limits, becomes a blade that can cut through anything. He pushes his sword out of its scabbard and unleashes a smooth and perfect series of cuts. In the instant he revealed his blade, he managed to cut 10 leaves perfectly in half. While Rina was amazed, he was also impressed that her eyes counted them correctly. Asked who he is again, he finally introduces himself as Xander, a wandering hermit. The girl takes this to mean that he has nothing better to do, and shamelessly asks him to teach her swordsmanship, even calling him master already. He first wonders why she became an adventurer in the first place. Also, what is her purpose for seeking strength? Sitting down, she shares that she's the 3rd daughter of a noble but provincial family. With a preference for martial arts rather than social gatherings, she only did sword training. What's more, stories of women slaying dragons drew her into her dream, but her parents disapproved, saying it's not what girls do. Such was her simple goal. Without saying anything else, he tells her to practice running and run 1,000 laps a day. Ignoring the order to start immediately, she brightly confirms that he's basically agreed to be her master. After this, the reality finally sets in, and she screams over the absurd amount of laps. Still, this is what she asked for, so she does as told regardless. Physical drills and studying are part of her regimen as well, and the best part is sparring with her master. Soon enough, she tries the leaves test again, and shocks herself after successfully cutting 9 leaves in the air. Elated, she asks Xander if he was watching, and he just replies that 11 would be easy if she continues training at this pace. The encouragement gets her even more fired up. Later on, he commends her for working hard these past few days, but says he won't be able to train her from the next day onwards. The disciple questions why, and is just given a painful reminder of her harsh training. This is nearly enough to take her out. However, the basics are going to be essential for her speed, which is certain to become a weapon. In fact, he gets a little hopeful over her progress and starts to daydream. Asked what he means, he brushes it off and dismisses the thought. Rina dusts the dirt off her clothes and invites her master to celebrate her progress and their short time together. He's silent, but the two head to the town's tavern as planned. His vibe was definitely different, especially with the robe covering his entire face. Xander argues that it's just how he dresses in public. Speaking of which, she finally asks why he came to Bristol in the first place. The man actually opened a dojo in the east, but had to close it down for certain reasons. As for coming to the town, it was to help a benefactor who was in need. Suddenly turning all serious, he tells Rina to listen well. She watched intently. The weak have no value in existence, and only the strong survive in the law of the world. Despite the harsh and morbid advice, she perks up and promises to become powerful. As she thanked him, the food they ordered finally came, and it looked like the best meal they could ever hope for. While she scarfed her food down, Xander drank his tea, and subtly smiled in satisfaction. Their delicious last meal ended soon, and it was finally time to part. Rina tells her master to teach her again sometime. Although he makes no promises, the brightness in her doesn't fade, and she happily walks off. With his student gone, the swordmaster left, turning into dark and eerie alleys. He reaches a small building, and enters to find a familiar woman waiting for him all this time. Kate greeted him, asking how many days he was late. Explaining how he was reminiscing about the past, he takes his hood off, and reveals the 5 fingers mark on his neck. Not caring too much about his personal activities, she says the ice and frightening man has work to do. Wandering around the town on a random day, Des was already troubled, and wondering how he was going to tell everyone. The conquest for the 5 nightmares had already been decided on. Cynthia, Rafim, Valor, and Iris, and Herman were each going to lead a party to simultaneously conquer an assigned dungeon. That was what was decided, but the enchanter received the news that he was joining the Iron Arms party. In the end, he had no choice but to be involved, especially with Rudark putting so much on his shoulders. He asked if a D-rank adventurer like him was even allowed inside. Since the dungeon is outside Bristol, the guild has no jurisdiction over who enters, meaning he had no way at all for this. Gritting his teeth, Valor suddenly rejects him from the party, saying he doesn't need a weak enchanter, They're surprised by his uncharacteristic statement, but his shifty eyes told a different story. Cynthia gets defensive and vouches for her friend, wanting him to use his experience to teach the young newbie. After all, he holds amazing potential within. The second captain is silent for a while, and with another prompt from her, he bows and accepts. That said, the atmosphere was heavy, and he obviously was laced with reluctance. Pushing his luck a little more, Des sheepishly raises his hand and says he also has party members. The captain flat out refuses to babysit even more newbie adventurers, an answer he already expected to be met with. Burdened with the responsibility of relaying that rejection, he entered a tavern with a heavy heart. He finds his friends at a table, already waving at him to come. The sight of them melts his troubles away, and the bright atmosphere of the place also helps. With this, he starts explaining, and shares that he's going to be entering the fight nightmares. Having been waiting and training for it already, the three excitedly agree to conquer the dungeon together. However, their hearts sink as he adds how only a limited number of people will be sent inside. Their captain asks them to wait there with everyone else. Rena reacts first, banging her hands on the table, and questioning the entire decision altogether. Their companions belonging to the same party, so if he's going, then they're intent on coming with him no matter what. However, things are different this time, and the dungeons are extremely high level. There was no way he could put all of them in such danger. Their faces and eyes drop. With a despondent but pained voice, Rena asks if they're just dead weight to him. He and the others are surprised by her forward question, but Gara understands what their leader is saying and acknowledges that they lack strength. The girl persists, arguing that they can help in other ways, which is also why they've been training. Des uncharacteristically raises his voice, asking them to listen just this once. He'll have his hands full with himself and won't be able to protect everyone with him. Knowing this, he's even more afraid of anyone dying under his watch. His words silence them, until Dorothy recalls how she previously told him not to carry everything on his own. Back then, she asked him to rely on them as well. With that in mind, he must have made this decision with a lot of thought and consideration. She understands him, and can only ask him to come back alive. After all, he's also a precious companion that no one wants to lose. Hating how everyone always had to understand and help him, Des kept his eyes on the ground and apologized to his comrades. Des is in his room rummaging through his things while thinking about the quest tomorrow. He reminds himself not to cause any trouble for Valor. He then sees the potion from before and remembers a happy memory with his guildmates. His smile fades when he recalls Rena's concerns from earlier, thinking that they were just dead weight to him. He really wants to do the quest with everyone, but he can't just risk their safety knowing it will endanger his team. Just then, he hears a knock at his door. It slightly opens, revealing Cynthia, who awkwardly asks if he is done preparing for tomorrow. He confirms, and she also shares that she is done preparing as well. An awkward silence follows and Cynthia admits that Rapham told her to check on him. Blushing, she asks if he wants to take a walk with her as a warm-up exercise. He finds it odd but goes with her anyway. Later, the two arrive at a hill and take a break there. Cynthia is feeling sorry for dragging him into a difficult situation and shares that when she coincidentally reunited with Des, she felt it was destiny. Even though she left their hometown first, she dreamed of exploring dungeons with Des, and she had never imagined that they would actually reunite. Des admits that he is happy that she remembered their childhood promise. All these years, he thought that he was the only one who remembered their promise, but he is grateful that she was also thinking about the vow they made. The reason he left their hometown and became an adventurer was because of Cynthia. Someday he will definitely stand beside her and conquer an S-rank dungeon together because that dream carried him to where he is right now and pushed him to withstand it all. Besides, Cynthia is someone he has always admired. Realizing that what he just said is a bit embarrassing, he clarifies that he is admiring her as a great person. The two are beet red while talking with each other, but the girl smiles, grateful that he sees her in that kind of light. However, she can't remain as someone he admires. They are companions who will conquer the S-rank dungeons together, and she wants to be the sword that he will wield when the time comes. In return, she wants him to guard her back and become someone who will support her. Des is stunned for a moment that she wants to be equal with him. He promises to strive hard to be worthy to stand beside her. They renew their vow to explore the S-rank dungeons together, but with everyone in his guild, which makes Cynthia laugh since it's so him not to leave anyone behind. If they accomplish tomorrow's mission successfully, they can conquer the Grand Navel. Knowing how dangerous the mission will be, they promise each other that they will come back alive, their hands almost touching under the gleam of the moon. The next morning, the adventurers gather for the mission. Seeing all the high-ranked adventurers, Des becomes overwhelmed, thinking if he really deserves to be there with accomplished ones. Others gossip about him, noticing how he stands out since he really is scrawny and looks weak. With conviction, Cynthia tells everyone that their safety is the utmost concern, but as adventurers, they need to obtain the keys to get their hands on the Grand Navel. After raising their spirits, it is now time for their units to depart. Meanwhile, Rena and the others are hiding behind thick bushes, careful not to get seen by the adventurers. While peeking through their hiding spot, Gara asks her if they are really going to follow them. The swordsman confirms this, since she can't be at ease seeing Des together with scary-looking people. Dorothy feels bad for the guy, because no matter how strong his power is, he needs to work out his relationship with other adventurers to show his true potential. She then turns to Rena and tells her that she should not cause any trouble. The swordsman swears on it. Back with the adventurers, Valor is riding close to Des, and the old man never thought that he would actually be there. The man deeply sighs, concerned about the young man beside him. He tells him that he must prioritize his safety, and in the dungeon, he must hide behind Valor all the time since Cynthia also told him to protect the young adventurer. If he gets injured, he won't be able to show his face to the commander. The other adventurers hear this and laugh at him. Embarrassed by their stares, he replies that he is also a member of the dungeon conquest team and he is not meant to be protected. His duty is to fight as an enhancement mage beside everyone. He is determined to be worthy of exploring dungeons with Cynthia, and so he will strive hard to be a better person. Valor looks at him and realizes that he has the spirit of a full-fledged adventurer. With this, the old man gives him some advice. He must never overestimate his power because someone he knew died that way, so he reiterates that he must stay behind him since it is the only way he can surely live. The rain starts to pour and the team takes shelter under a boulder. After that, they brave the changing weather and hike a steep slope to the mountains. At night, they take a rest and build a fire to keep themselves warm. As they continue their journey, they reach the Underworld King's mausoleum. Dez is somewhat stunned with the massive mausoleum before him, wondering if the person is the Underworld King. Since it is an Ultra A rank dungeon with no prior information, he needs to be careful. They then enter the dungeon led by Valor. Upon entering, they are immediately greeted by darkness, which proves to be challenging for them since they can't tell the direction they are taking. Just then, they hear screams from the other side of the dungeon. 3 adventurers are running away from undead. Seeing this, Valor tells Dez to activate his enhancement magic. The boy heeds this and steps forward into the battlefield. However, the old man grabs his shirt and pulls him back, reminding him that he should be behind even when casting spells. The horde of living dead charges toward them, and since they are just B-rank monsters, Valor easily takes care of them, noting that 5 Terror, the 5 Nightmares, seems to be a dungeon in name only. It is quite unexpected, and so Dez's assistance is no longer needed. Valor and the others continue to annihilate the monsters, and Dez tries to help, but the old man reiterates that his assistance is not needed anymore. Dez points out that the opponent is a B-rank monster, hence it will be challenging for them without any enhancement magic. Valor finds him foolish, stating that he is with the elite members of the distinguished 2nd Brigade, and so they can easily slay B-rank monsters. Dez confirms this immediately after seeing the living dead all annihilated quickly without anyone getting injured. After all, they are the experts second to Cynthia and Rafim's power. He then tends to the 3 adventurers from earlier and checks their wounds. Valor commands him not to heal the adventurers since they might start the conquest again and endanger themselves even more. If they leave the dungeon now, it will be better for them, so he should not heal them. However, if he insists on healing them, he will be left behind. Right now, their utmost priority is obtaining the key, and if he wants to stay, it will be beneficial for everyone since they will not have to protect him. One of the adventurers tells him that he does not have to worry about them, and that he should go ahead and do their mission. Dez is torn between leaving for the quest and abandoning the injured people. Because of this, he leaves them a healing potion that can help with their injuries. In addition, he also casts a vitality enhancement on everyone which can speed up their healing. Meanwhile, the trio observes from a distance how Dez's party fights the undead easily until they finally reach the boss room. They enter the room and are greeted by a huge crystal floating inside. The 3 also pop their heads inside and are stunned by what they are seeing. They try to keep their voices low as they continue to observe. Valor observes the room and figures that they are at a dead end. He is shocked when a woman suddenly appears out of nowhere and introduces herself as Sarah, their guide inside the mausoleum. Everyone is shocked by her presence and thinks that she must be a ghost. However, Dorothy figures that she must be a spirit based on her appearance. Sarah has been entrusted with the role of guiding those who visit the mausoleum of the Underworld King. Though her power is weak, she hopes that she can guide the guests inside the mausoleum. She then instructs the adventurers to touch the crystal, so they will be transferred to the middle floor. The key to the Grand Navel is held by the Underworld King, who valued companions above all else. If they can show the Underworld King the strength of their bonds, they can surely obtain the key. Dez interprets it as working together with companions to conquer the dungeon, which Sarah confirms. She smiles at the adventurers and reminds them to always take care of their companions. Valor remains silent while Dez worries that there is something more they missed with the clues Sarah gave them. Dez leads and touches the crystal, wishing to see them again. She wishes them safe travels as the adventurers, including the trio, are wrapped up in a spell circle, transporting them to the middle floor of the king's mausoleum. Dez is transported to a part of the dungeon where no one is around. He calls out to everyone and realizes that they were transported to different points of the mausoleum. With this, he urgently needs to find everyone. He uses his hearing enhancement to find the others and grasp the situation inside the dungeon. He concentrates and eventually finds the position of the others. With this, he confirms that they were transferred to separate locations. However, he finds it odd that there is no monster reaction around the area. To improve his surveillance, he uses his vision enhancement magic and discovers that there are monsters everywhere, confirming that they are under a trap and that the monsters are set up all over the place. With this crucial information, he rushes toward the others to inform them about the imminent danger coming their way. However, to his dismay, he is too late as his team has already been attacked by the monsters. The 3 elite adventurers apologize to Valor, but the old man apologizes instead, saying that he should be the one at fault since he should have predicted the traps. Des observes that Valor is so humble toward his subordinates, and he does not seem to be just a cold-hearted person. He shouts that they should return to the base. However, Valor disagrees, saying that they need to continue moving forward and that returning without obtaining the key is not an option. Des insists that they should treat everyone before fighting again, but they disagree, pushing to still fight despite their injuries. One of them tries to stand up but wobbles on his feet. The enchanter sees this and tells him not to move since his wounds are still healing. Just then, Rina and the others appear, declaring that they have arrived to save the day. Des is shocked to see them there and admits that they are his party companions. He confronts his guildmates and asks why they are in the dungeon and how they know exactly where they are. Rina smiles and proudly declares that she spent all her money to buy a magic tool. She explains that she put a piece of handkerchief soaked with Des's sweat. She shows the tracking compass to them, and they track the enchanter's trail. Des then realizes that she took his handkerchief before. Rina points at the injured elite adventurers and declares that they will cooperate in their place. She cannot accept that he refused to bring them on the mission since they are supposed to be companions. They are not people that he has to protect, but companions he should be fighting alongside. Although they rely heavily on his enhancement magic, she tells him that they have grown as adventurers and have gotten strong enough that even he will be surprised. Gara looks at the young man and tells him that he should trust them more as his comrades, promising that they will not overdo it so he will not get worried. Rina seconds this, assuring him that they will not die easily. Des smiles at them with tears in his eyes and agrees to explore the dungeon alongside them. Valor chimes in, expressing his disagreement with their plan, pointing out that the adventurers needed in their exploration are those who can fight, and the weak should return to the surface immediately. Rina feels insulted by the old man's words, while Valor is also offended that she shows disrespect to him as the leader of the 2nd Brigade. He then asks if they are confident and feel superior to his subordinates. Rina confirms this, and so the old man states that they should at least test her capabilities. Before the challenge begins, Dorothy transports the injured adventurers to the surface so they will not be involved in the process. Valor asks them to conquer the trap to convince him that they are enough as substitutes for the elite adventurers. His subordinates have been caught in the trap, trying to pass through one of the hallways of the dungeon. He throws a rock at the space and the trap activates, oozing with acid that can melt anything. He explains that the passage is probably rigged with traps. The party is shocked, seeing the trap waiting for them. Des uses his enhanced vision to check if there are more traps and discovers that the whole floor is rigged with them. He explains that the moment they step on the floor, a large amount of sulfuric acid will spray out from the walls, and the deactivation switch is about 50 meters ahead, near the end of the passageway. The old man seems impressed by the power of his enhancement magic. He figures that if the whole passageway is rigged with traps, then it should be the right path they should take. Des looks at his party, worried. Rina volunteers to dash through the path without the help of his enhancement magic. Des disagrees with her plan and worries about her. Sure, she is agile, but it will be safer if he casts an enhancement spell on her to make her more agile than she already is. However, she declines, pointing out that they still have a long way to go and he needs to conserve his magic power. She adds that it is also a challenge from the old man and she aims to earn his respect and acknowledge her capabilities as an adventurer. With determination, she gets ready and dashes with lightning speed along the passageway. Both Des and Valor are shocked by the agility she displays. She successfully dodges all the traps and reaches the deactivation switch in just a blink of an eye. Des looks at his other guildmates in shock. Dorothy confirms that they were also shocked when they first saw Rina display her speed, noting that the girl seemed to have worked very hard at training. Gara tells him that they have been training repeatedly because they do not want to be a burden to him and want to help him desperately. More than anything, they are afraid to be dead weight to him. He smiles, grateful that his party is always thinking of him. Satisfied with her display of power, Valor lets the party join their exploration. With this settled, they all show off their power and eventually reach the room where the key to the Grand Navel is hidden. Since it has been an easy floor so far, they doubt it is real. The old man agrees but notes that they still need to investigate it. The key is under lightning arrows to prevent someone from reaching it. Rina volunteers to charge again, but Des points out that this is different from the traps earlier, so they have to let him help using his enhancement magic. He then casts the spell on them and Valor is impressed that their stats increase tremendously. Gara takes it as a cue to use his absolute wall defense and runs through the lightning arrows. Des is surprised to see this new technique from Gara, which can defend a wide area. Since the barrier is set, Rina runs through the lightning arrows. Just then, a ball of fire hurls in her direction. Seeing this, Dorothy casts a spell to produce ice bullets and traps the swirl of fire inside, protecting her guildmate from being injured. Rina runs as fast as she can and reaches out for the key. She successfully grabs it and they cheer, thinking that the mission is already over. As they celebrate, the ball of fire trapped inside the block of ice gets unconfined. Fortunately, Valor is fast enough to react and nullifies the fire, saving Rina from imminent danger. He acknowledges her superhuman speed, but reminds her that she should not let her guard down until the end. She thanks him for the save and celebrates again that they can now proceed to the Grand Navel. However, to their surprise, the key shatters and Sarah appears again, congratulating them for having a strong bond, and because of it, admirably overcoming the mission. She reveals that the key is fake and that there are still challenges waiting for them. Frustrated by this revelation, Valor fires a ball of magic in her direction, only to discover that she cannot be harmed and that the magic just passes right through her. She chuckles and understands their frustration, but tells them to be patient since their stay in the dungeon will be fun. For their next challenge, she mysteriously tells them that they will be part of it, and their strong bonds will surely help them pass the trial. She then transports them to another floor. The party is transported to a room that looks so grand. In the middle of it is the Underworld King, and they are shocked to learn that they are in the throne room of the King of the Underworld. Seeing that their opponent is just a skeleton, Rina thinks that it will be an easy fight, and they can easily retrieve the key. Meanwhile, Dez is in deep thought. He recalls what Sarah told them about the next trial being themselves. The king stands up and introduces himself as Morpheus. He then casts dark magic, conjuring their opponents. He sets up 5 mirrors and tells them to enjoy the challenge. As if on cue, 5 shadows of themselves come out of the mirrors. They finally understand what Sarah meant, and now they have to fight the shadow versions of themselves. As a mage, Dorothy warns them that it is a special kind of dark magic since they were able to materialize targets reflected in shadow mirrors, so technically they are still fighting themselves. Dez casts an enhancement spell on everyone, and they are surprised to see that the shadow Dez is also using the same spell on their counterparts. The party fights with their shadow selves, which proves to be difficult since it is like mirroring their own moves. Dorothy's shadow fights with her water spell. Gara uses his absolute wall defense to counter it, while the real Dorothy uses her ice bullet against Rina's shadow, but it proves to be faster than her, so the real Rina has to step up and shield her from the attack. She has no choice but to fight, but feels like hurting herself is awful. Since she is busy dealing with her shadow, Valor's shadow attacks, hurling a ray of power in her direction. Fortunately, Valor steps in and nullifies the attack. Realizing the trick behind the shadows, he warns them that they are just illusions created by magic, so they should not be deceived. Dez then notices that the shadows' stats, skills, and coordination are exactly the same. However, they do not get tired at all. In conclusion, if the fight drags on, it will be dangerous for them since it will tire them out. An idea then comes into his mind and he leaps. The shadow imitates his step, and in a daring move, he pulls out a potion from his pocket and splashes it toward the shadow. His move earns confused looks from his party, and they ask what he is doing. He shows them the potion and explains that it is the one Rina gave him before. The potion is called Smells Like Half-Dried Laundry, and splashing it toward the shadow proves that they cannot copy external factors and can only copy internal factors. This means they cannot copy equipment or items. To test out his theory, Valor grabs Rina's sword while Dez borrows Gara's shield. The two march toward the shadows, which attack them using the usual spells that their original counterparts use. He uses Gara's shield and puts his enhancement spell on it. Valor understands his plan, and as he plays a decoy, the old man swiftly attacks, slashing the shadows with Rina's sword. They all rejoice, thinking that they are at an advantage and are confident that they can defeat the Underworld King. However, Morpheus creates another set of shadows, and to their shock, they are copies of Vix and Cynthia. The shadow copies of Vix and Cynthia step forward. Dez asks Valor if he knows who the other one is. The old man is reluctant to say that the man died 10 years ago, and that he is his son. Dez is shocked at this. The Underworld King explains that he can make shadows that are hidden in their hearts. The other shadows disappear and get absorbed into the Vix and Cynthia shadows. Dez looks at the two shadows' stats, and they are unbelievably too high for even multiplicative enhancement to handle. He sees no way they can match them. The Vix shadow suddenly disappears and reappears behind Rina, Dorothy, and Gara. The three manage to dodge its sword slash. Valor faces his son, and they clash with iron fist and sword. Vix asks his father if he is planning to kill him again, making Valor feel unbalanced. It opens Vix to overpower him and push him back. Dez is about to get to him, but the Cynthia shadow gets behind him and stabs him through the chest. The group sees as Dez falls unconscious to the floor. As he starts to weaken, Dez's thoughts drift to Cynthia and their talks of fulfilling their dreams together. He closes his eyes. He is transported to a world where he is floating on a tranquil body of water. He gets up and asks himself if he is already dead. A woman with priestly white robes appears and calls him the Oracle's apostle. She presents a golden orb in her right hand and gives him the choice to restart his life or to choose the purple orb in her left hand that can give him great power in sacrifice of a tragic path in life. Dez asks where he is and if he is already dead. She answers that he is in the boundary between the living world and the moment of death. Dez does not accept it and asks where his friends are. She answers that they are still fighting in the living world, which worries Dez. She then asks again for Dez to make a choice between the two orbs. He asks if restarting his life means he will restart with a completely different life. She answers that he is correct. Dez then asks if having the power of the purple orb means he can save everyone. She answers that it will. Dez declares that he chooses the power to save everyone. The woman smiles. She asks if he seeks power. Dez answers as he nears the purple orb that he seeks because he has people he needs to protect. He touches the orb, and it dissipates. The goddess-like being tells him that he can now return to his companions. In the living world, the group is still in shock that Dez is lifeless on the floor. Rina declares she will never forgive the Underworld King and his shadows for this. The king tells them that he has been entertained, but it is time to end their journey. Suddenly, Dez gets back up. Everyone is shocked and relieved. Dez, however, suddenly glows in bright light, making the group worry. The Underworld King recognizes it as the gifted talent called the Divine Granted Skill. Dez's hair turns white as he walks with a bright glow. Everyone is on the edge of their seats, waiting to see what he is going to do. Dez activates Natural Healing Enhancement, which fully heals his stab wound. The Underworld King praises his ability to heal a wound that could have resulted in his death. He sees this as proof that he has truly gained the divinely granted skill. The Vix shadow charges at him. Dez activates Strength Enhancement and punches the Vix shadow with the power that pushes him backwards to the wall. Dez then approaches the Cynthia shadow. The shadow attacks with tendrils of shadow, but Dez simply swats them off with minimal effort. He then strangles the Cunithia shadow. With a squeeze, he makes the shadow disappear. Everyone is shocked by his newfound strength. The Underworld King is not surprised, since he believes him to be the Oracle's apostle. He summons another mirror that will summon another shadow of Dez. Dez runs towards the mirror and destroys it with a strike. They watch on, shocked at his incredible speed. Dez then charges at the Underworld King, but the shadow of Vix blocks his path. Rina wants Valor to stay focused, so she reminds him that the shadow is not his real son. Before the Vix shadow can lay his sword on Dez, Valor charges at him and pins him to the floor. The old man asks the shadow of his son to stay dead with great pain. Valor then shouts at Dez to take down the enemy leader while he has the chance. Dez uses his hand to stab the Underworld King in the chest. The only words the king has are about how magnificent Dez's power is. He then shatters and dissipates. The Vix shadow disappears with him. Dez suddenly goes back to his usual self, but is confused. He asks what happened. Valor informs him that he defeated the shadows and the Underworld King. Dez looks at where his wound was and is surprised that it is no longer there. Rina energetically clings to him in relief that he is not dead. Dorothy and Gara state their relief that he is safe too. It makes Dez all the more curious to find out what happened. His friends tell him everything. They theorize that he might have unconsciously stacked enhancement magic again, but they see this as impossible since he is still wearing his conversion bracelet. Valor shares that he heard from the Underworld King that his ability is called the Divine Granted Skill, and that he also called him the Oracle's Apostle. Dez remembers the goddess-like woman telling him that he was the Oracle's Apostle, too. It makes him realize that he was not dreaming after all. Just as Valor is about to say his deduction of what really happened, Sarah appears and congratulates her guests for overcoming the trial. She guides them to the next room. As they walk, Deza asks Valor about what happened to his son. Dez sees that the old man is uncomfortable talking about it, so he says he will not force him to. They walk until they reach a large room with a bonfire in the middle that Sarah says is the deepest layer in the Underworld King's mausoleum. Dez asks if Sarah is the final opponent. The spirit says she is not, and that she will now forge the key to the Great Navel. The group cheers as they believe this means they have already conquered the dungeon. Sarah smiles. She continues to say that to obtain something of value, they need to offer something of equivalent price. She elaborates that if they desire the key, they need to offer one soul to the bonfire. This horrifies Dez and his team. Sarah simplifies that they need to exchange one person's life for the key. As if it is nothing, she says that the choice is simple. Now, Sarah looks like an ominous villain to the group. They ask again if she means that someone needs to give up their life for them to get the key. Sarah says that they are correct. They object, stating that they will never do such a thing. Sarah suggests that she decide who will die for them. It angers Rina that she rushes to the spirit with her sword. She strikes at her, but the attack only passes through her. Dorothy reminds Rina that spirits cannot be attacked. Sarah is proud to say that the only thing that can stop her is the Underworld King's power alone. The panicking Rina asks Dez what they should do. Dez accuses Sarah of lying when she said from the start that they could get the key if they worked together. Sarah tells him that it was not a lie. She reminds him that she told them to treasure their friends. It angers Dez that it is only now that he realizes what she meant by it. He shouts at the spirit for making it so that passing the trial alone means still not being able to bring back the key. Sarah calls someone sacrificing themselves for their friends the very image of true friendship. Gara calls her view of true friendship a cruel joke. Dez thinks about the people who got hurt in his journey so far and how he cannot bring himself to sacrifice anyone. He remembers how he promised Cynthia to fulfill their dreams together. He closes his eyes, begging for someone to tell him what to do. He remembers Cynthia telling him not to die. He apologizes to Cynthia, as he has made up his mind. He approaches Sarah and tells her that it should be him. Just before he finishes his words, chains of golden light wrap around him and the others. It is revealed that it was Valor who cast the spell. The old man tells Dez that a young man like him should not sacrifice himself since he still has a future. He says that as an old man, he should be the one who should give up his life. He explains that his son was an adventurer who was in the garden party and was such a talented version that people expected him to be a brigade captain like him someday. He regrets to say that he died before that happened. He explains that he died sacrificing his life to save his friends, the way Dez just tried to do. Dez remembers Valor telling him about how he reminds him of a person who died early. He realizes now that the old man was talking about his son. Valor tells the tale of how he and his wife had their only son, Vix, so late in life, and how it made him even more beloved to them. Valor was proud of his son, as he wanted to grow up to become an adventurer like his father. Valor remembered all the times he taught his boy how to fight at such a young age for fun. He told Vix that the most important quality of a great adventure is that they think of their companions. He encouraged the little boy to fight and treasure his companions no matter what. Vix worked hard to become an adventurer and finally became a member of the Gardener and was considered a young talent. Valor remembered that he had led a party in a dungeon and told his son to stay behind him. Vix insisted not only on being protected but also on fighting alongside his father. Valor realized he valued protecting others way too much for his own good. One day, Vix was excited to tell his parents that he had been given an A-rank dungeon quest. His mother was worried, but Vix was confident that he would succeed no matter what. Valor reminded him that what was important was his companions. The boy answered with pride that he understood what he meant. Later, Valor found out from the party members who returned from the dungeon that Vix sacrificed himself to save them. His last words were, "If someone had to do it, I'll do it." Valor explains that it was the incident that made him start hesitating to take young people who trust their power too much into battle. Dez realizes that this is the only reason he was hard on him before. Valor apologizes for the way he treated him. The old man is sad since he thinks Vix must hate him now. He remembers the Vix shadow asking if he is planning to kill him again. He now regrets instilling in his son the importance of companions. It is with great difficulty that he believes he killed his son. Dex strongly disagrees. He shouts that he believes Vix must have been so proud of his father. Valor wonders what he means. Dez shares his belief that his son must have wanted to become an adventurer like his father, who cared about his companions more than anyone. He continues to say that there is no way Vix would have hated him. He shouts that Vix would have regretted abandoning his companions. He believes he must have been so proud to be like his father to the very end. Valor quotes his son when he said, "If someone had to do it, I'll do it." He knows that Dez was about to say it too, but sees that it is now his turn to say it. Dez pleads with the old man to stop as he approaches the bonfire. Dez screams after the old man, preventing him from sacrificing himself and dying in a despicable place like that. Without looking back at them, he asks Dez how he will obtain the key. Is he willing to kill someone and steal it by force? Dez tries his hard to answer him, but no words come out of his mouth. Determined to seal his fate, Valor continues to move forward to his death, stating that he is a proud adventurer. He will not let this mission taint his dignity as an adventurer. Besides, if he lets Dez die there, he won't be able to face Cynthia in the next life. The young man can't believe this but is restrained and can't do anything. Valor is now face to face with Sarah, ready to end everything. She laughs at how noble and brave he is. Dez and the others continue to try to stop the old man from sacrificing himself, trying to free themselves from the chains. Sarah smiles menacingly, enjoying the pain and devotion from the old man who is about to die. She raises her hand and engulfs the man in fire. She subjects him to a slow, agonizing death, burning him from the inside and out. Dez cries for the old man as he is dying in front of him. During his last breath, Valor requests that he tells his wife that he is sorry and states that he is glad that he was able to come there with him. He looks back at them and smiles, bidding his last goodbye. He then entrusts Cynthia to Dez. When it's finally done, the fire leaves his body, leaving him on the ground in his final moments. He sees an image of Vix smiling back at him, and, with peace, he leaves the world. Dez cries out in despair while seeing the old man breathe his last. The fire burns more brightly than before, and after it calms down, it reveals the key. Meanwhile, Dez uses his ultimate power to break from the chain. As tears roll down his face, he attempts to use vitality enhancement to revive the old man. He fails and uses it again, numerous times to no avail. He desperately uses his magic, wishing that he could turn back time and revive Valor. Rena is devastated seeing her friend grieving. Dorothy lightly taps his shoulder, stating that magic doesn't work on the dead no matter how much spell and power he puts into it. Sarah hands the key to Rena, who asks if the trial is already over. However, she reveals that it is not over just yet and an even harsher trial awaits them. She seems to enjoy seeing their pain and despair, and as a guide, it is her duty to oversee their journey even outside the dungeon. So, they must give her the ultimate entertainment. She then opens a portal that flashes the outside world. Overwhelmed with grief, Dez screams his heart out, still unable to believe that Valor is now gone. The people are celebrating upon seeing the Chevaliers, who successfully explored the dungeon. A lot of them cheer out of mad respect for the adventurers who conquered an A-rank dungeon. However, the adventurers are not on the same level of excitement. Their exhaustion is more severe than expected, and it comes from deep despair and grief because of Valor's death. In the infirmary, the nurses are busy tending to the wounded adventurers. Cynthia marches inside, worry etched on her face. She frantically searches for Dez among the crowd, screaming his name. She then sees the boy in a corner, looking so defeated and bleak. She immediately rushes to his side and asks about his injuries. He tells her that he is fine, but Valor isn't. Full of grief, he stares at the key in his hand and tells her that the old man is already dead after sacrificing himself to obtain the key and save everyone. He didn't want anyone to die, but in the end, he couldn't save Valor, and he died because of his incompetence. He regrets everything. They could have retreated and given up, but the old man refused to let all their hard work go down the drain. As an adventurer, he has always been prepared to lose his life in the dungeon. Rafim tells him that he shouldn't feel responsible for what happened. She also checks up on him after hearing that something odd has happened to him. After telling her about the Oracle's apostle, she figures it means he has received a blessing from the gods, and it is called gift talents, divine granted skills. However, it is only written in old documents, and nowadays it's treated like a fairy tale. She also adds that his multiplicative enhancement is far too powerful, and a fragment of that divine granted skill may have appeared. She then tells him to be cautious, as the divine granted skills are immense power equal to the gods. Since their power exceeds human reason, all Oracle's apostles have met tragic ends. The boy is completely lost and realizes that even with the power of the gods, he couldn't save Valor from dying. Seeing him so heartbroken, Cynthia can't help but cry. Rafim tells them that Iris is in intensive care and Herman is still missing, and because of their dwindling number, they need to rebuild their forces as soon as possible. Still grieving, Des asks if they can still conquer the Great Naval in their current state. Composing herself, Cynthia answers that rebuilding their forces is the utmost priority, so they need to put a stop to conquering the Great Naval. Besides, the news that they have already obtained the key has already spread like wildfire throughout the city. For their safety, they need to gather forces so they can protect themselves against the thieves that may try to steal the key from them. She also suggests that they don't need to conquer the fifth terror and can just steal from those who obtain them. Des looks at the key in his hand and blames himself for everything, mocking himself for not being able to save everyone. Just then, his attention shifts to the commotion below, and he is shocked by what he sees. Even the other adventurers are shocked when a woman appears, aiming to steal the key from their possession. Rafim believes that Kate's objective is to get the key as well as a way to break into the underground prison. She and Cynthia know she wants to free Dawn. They know that the key is safe at the captain's office, and that nothing can break in and out of the underground prison as long as Rafim's barrier is in place there. Cynthia pulls out her sword, prepared to do all she needs to drive the enemies back. She then looks at Des and sees that he is still too consumed by his grief to stand up and do anything. She rushes to the door towards the battle. Meanwhile, the adventurers are preparing for battle. Rena, Dorothy, and Gara try to urge Des to fight with them, but the boy is frozen in his silence. Dorothy convinces them to go without him. She tells them that it is their turn to help Des this time. Many adventurers are battling the enemies in the open field of their headquarters. A mage attacks Kate with fire magic, but it does nothing to her. Kate then sees Rafim approaching and greets her with delight, as she calls her the Crimson Madness. The woman replies that she will not let her escape this time. Kate plays it off like it is an honor to be personally known by her. She tells her that her form of thanking her is to make her suffer. Cynthia attacks her just before she can attack Rafim, making her evade. Kate is glad to see that the Ice Princess has come too. Cynthia readies another sword attack, but her opponent is not worried. Xander suddenly blocks her sword with his. Cynthia tries to attack him with a barrage of swings, but the man evades every move. She is surprised that another Five Fingers member has appeared. Xander asks if she knows him. She admits that all who pursue the sword know of him. Meanwhile, Rena is in the distance and is shocked to see his master as their enemy. Rafim is troubled to see two S ranks at the same time. She tells them that as long as she and Cynthia are in their way, they cannot easily get the key. Kate replies that they do not want the keys to the dungeon. She points at Rafim and says they want her. She then activates a magic circle. Cynthia and Rafim jump away from the circle before it reaches their feet. It is revealed that she is using healing magic on all the garden members, confusing them. The two warn them immediately that her healing magic is like poison. A second later, many of the garden members have their bodies covered in burning toxic. Rafim attacks Kate with an energy blast, which the woman counters with her own. Kate's blast overpowers her opponent. It shocks Cynthia that there is someone capable of winning over Rafim in magic. The mage tells her opponent that she is only struggling because of days of non-stop magic usage. She is doing her best to hold on. Kate explains that she knows that the source of Rafim's inexhaustible magic power is her flame-tail capes, which resemble wings behind her. She says she knows that because she has overused her magic for days, she can break her flame tails even with her crude magic. Rafim asks how she knows about her weakness. Slowly, her cape breaks. Kate asks sarcastically what will happen to the underground prison barrier now that her wings are gone. Their energy blast battle creates a bright light on the battlefield. As their energy dissipates, Kate declares that they were even. Meanwhile, Rafim goes to her knees with her fire tails already burned off her back. Cynthia is worried, as she knows that they have breached the underground prison. Underground, the barrier has just broken. The guards in the prison suddenly get pierced through their chests. Don walks out of his cell with determined eyes. Rin, Gara, and Dorothy go to Rafim, as they are worried about her weak state. Suddenly, part of the headquarters wall explodes. Don is revealed to exit from it. Cynthia introduces him to the others as the leader of the Five Fingers. Dorothy recognizes him and fears they are in trouble. Cynthia has her focus on the man, as she does not want him to go loose in the outside world. Kate greets her returning leader. Don tells her that their objective is to steal the keys and annihilate everyone. He orders Xander to get to the captain's office to get the key. The swordsman goes to the hole in the wall to get to it. Rena sees him go in and tries to follow him. Cynthia charges at Don, but Kate gets in front of her and tells her that she is her opponent. Kate blasts her with energy blasts, and Cynthia evades all of them. Cynthia then gets at point-blank range of her opponent in a flash. She slices her arm off. Just as she is about to take his head, Don grabs her blade with his bare hand. Don then enhances his strength and agility 3 times over. Dorothy fears that this means the legend of the man who specializes in hand-to-hand combat with enhancement magic applied to his own body is true. Gara is shocked to see that he is fine despite using stacked enhancement magic. Don breaks Cynthia's sword with a grip. He then kicks Cynthia so hard that he hits and breaks the wall behind her. Gara asks that Dorothy get Des right away, and she runs. Don tells Cynthia that he was just warming up and that he intends to play with her a little longer. Meanwhile, inside the headquarters, Xander is running towards the captain's office. He hears someone call him master. He looks and sees that Rena is behind him. She is confused why he is their enemy. Meanwhile, Dorothy has just entered the room where Des is and tells him that everyone is in danger. Des tells her that it is useless since he can't save anyone. Dorothy tells him that it is easy to say that he can't do anything, but he shouldn't because it means he is abandoning someone's hope. She reminds him that Valor has entrusted his wishes to him. With her eyes full of tears, she tells him that Cynthia might die without him. Des recalls Cynthia and his promise to her. Dorothy pleads with him to see that he should not drown himself in the thoughts of things he can't control. It makes him remember Valor advising him to move forward, and Cynthia swearing to be his sword. Des finally stands up from his chair and tells Dorothy that he will try. Dorothy is happy for Des. Suddenly, the man glows bright with magic. His eyes make it look like he is in a trance. Dorothy worries that something is different about him.